it's time for every one of us to participate. All right, so we want to appeal to everyone as you join, kindly mute. This session will also be recorded. So this is to let everyone know that this session will be recorded. So I want to appeal to, thank you so much. I want to welcome everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Okay, so we have quite a number of us have joined. We still await everyone, but we'll kickstart right away because we don't have to waste much time. So we want to welcome everyone once again to another exciting edition. This will be our 4th edition of the ISC2 National Cybersecurity Conference, which is holding online at this time, so that as much as possible, our colleagues in Abuja, our colleagues across the other states, both from the Northwest, Northeast, and the Southwest, Southeast, and the West, and everyone can join this particular call. We have invited speakers and panelists from on this particular session. In our keynote presentations, we'll also be having 2 panel discussions, and we'll also be having one more presentation during this whole session, and hopefully who have joined us, and they will be shedding more light on how to be cyber resilient and what you need to do, what's the future cyber resilient. Right. So without much ado, we would like to welcome everybody once again, and we would like to take the national anthem. Right, Frank, would you help us with the national anthem? All right, so we take the national anthem together. Arise, O compatriots, Nigerians all obey, to serve our fatherland with all. All right, thank you for that, Frank. Well, welcome. So, Frank, can we also take the ISC2 code of ethics? So we usually have our global Frank will take that first.
Hello, everyone. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen. Kindly proceed.
Okay, let's do this together. Our code of ethics is to protect the society, the common good, necessary public trust and confidence, and the infrastructure. To act honorably, honestly, justly, responsibly, and legally. To provide diligent and competent service to our principals, advance and protect the profession. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Frank. Thank you, and thank you everyone that participated in reading our code of ethics. So we have that as part of what we do on an annual basis whenever we come to a conference like this. All right, so without much ado, I would like to invite our own very ISC2 chapter president in the name of Samuel Umbono. Samuel, you have the floor. Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much, Timlane. Thank you, Frank. Thank you, everyone. It's exciting to be here. I'm so excited to be part of this national conference, being the fourth that we are having. And it's also very fundamental that being the fourth edition, we've done a lot in the past 4 years. There's a lot of achievement, a lot of work has been done. Simi, can you put your, okay, thank you. A lot of work, a lot of achievements, and all of that wouldn't have been possible without your support. So it's important to mention that over the years, there have been a lot of synergy, collaborative efforts, working with every one of you in expanding the reach, of the profession. And most importantly is to mention that most of those things that we've done, they haven't been done just by one person or by the team alone, but by every one of us. ISC2 Nigerian chapter is becoming a known brand, not just in Nigeria, but globally. This year's conference, the theme is Stay Cyber Resilient. And that the theme is actually dovetailing from the global cybersecurity awareness theme for the month of October 2022, See Yourself in Cyber. And we've seen that considering the trend over the years and the cyber events that we've seen that has impacted many industries and individuals like you and I, it's important to ensure that we stay cyber resilient, we stay cyber ready at every point in time, especially with the expansion, of digital footprint of organization, with the evolution of recent technologies like the artificial intelligence, the machine learning, blockchain, the IoTs, and all of that. We see that a lot of things, not just individuals alone, are now being connected online. You can imagine situations where, as much as you are interacting, online, devices are interacting as well, right? And that's where technology has brought us to. We have devices like our television with the smart TVs. We have to the extent of our refrigerators, right? Our smart wristwatches. Today we have smart homes. Everything is becoming smart. We have smart cities and all of that. So as all those technological evolution is happening, it also expanding on the threat landscape, because the more we are connected, the more exposed we are. So it's important to say that cybersecurity is now taking the forefront globally. when it comes to needs. And I can also say, as many of us will know, according to the World Economic Forum, cyber threat is now one of the top 3 threats that organizations, that nations are then focusing on. It's not just top 3, it's number 2, and that's behind climate change. Just after climate change is the cyber threat. Today we see a lot of, nations, you see wars, you see a lot of things happening. Cyber is at the forefront of it. For instance, we are aware of the war between Russia, between Russia and Ukraine. And it's also important to say that the nations are also leveraging on cyber threats, cyber attacks, to engage in this war. So there's cyber warfare even between nations. So it behoves on us to understand the fact that when we talk about cyber security, we should all be interested in it. Even beyond the cyber warfare, like I mentioned, with everything that are interconnected. Today, we have smart televisions in our homes. Many of us, we are subscribing to online content, not even us alone. Our family members are also engaged in these things, children, and all of that. So we need to be cautious, as we engage and as we utilize this technology. So I'm very much interested and happy to be here with every one of us. And we've had several programs since the beginning of this month. We've had globally recognized industry speakers come talk to us since we started. I'm sure you remember that the first event that we had, the first webinar, where we brought in the chapter presidents for different leading chapters of ISC2. The London chapter president was here. The Toronto chapter president was here. We have the chapter president from Delhi, India, and myself as well. And we had a very good engagement session where we spoke about some of the initiatives and strategies that every individual chapter is, adopting to expand the cyber security awareness campaign. We also had one of the seminars where we invited Confidence Stavely, and I'm sure we are familiar with that name. And she spoke to us at length, and it was very, very insightful. We've also had several other engagements where we talked about managing cloud security. We've talked about insider threat. We've talked about a lot of topics that relates to us and that are very trendy at this time. Today is like capping it all, where we'll be closing out the Cybersecurity Awareness Month. And we have different programs that have been lined up for today. And again, we are bringing in industry best industry experts. For instance, we would have our keynote speaker, Tokpala Denusi, who is a very senior partner at Deloitte. He is going to be talking to us on the topic. He will be giving the keynote speech on Stay Cyber Resilient. And we have different panel sessions. We have veterans like our director, Arsing, who is part of that session. We have Bharat Soni, as part of that session. We have Umi Faiga, we have Ayo, Wale, Pupola. We have, CISOs from the FSIs, CISOs from, different industries that are part of these sessions. For us, it's about learning. Like I will always say that anyone that stops learning starts dying, right? And I'm sure we know that because the way things are evolving and changing, learning is fundamental. Personal development is very fundamental. So as things are evolving and changing, we need to ensure that we follow the trend. Otherwise, it's either you're playing a catch up or you just realize that you're behind. So I'm so excited, to be here. I would ask that we make sure we are here as well. As much as possible, let's invite all the professionals, friends, and colleagues that we know will benefit from this event. One major challenge we've always had is with getting, a fund, for the event, and a few strategies and initiatives that we'll be bringing up. So I will ask that as much as we can, that we all contribute in that aspect. I want to say thank you to all our sponsors, those that have sponsored us in cash, those that have sponsored us in kind, all the speakers, that have devoted their time and their effort, their money, to put all of these events together. It's good to say thank you to them. And also the officers, I cannot, it goes without saying, our officers have been very wonderful. The chapter officers, from the vice president, the membership chair, the secretary, the finance secretary, and also volunteers. We've had very good representation from people that have volunteered to be part, of the officers, and they've contributed immensely, and I wish Ayodeji Jayola is here, especially. I want to say special thank you to him. He's been very, very supportive. In fact, he's been extraordinary and exemplary in the service that he has provided as one of the volunteers in the officers, ISC2 Nigeria officers. So thank you everyone once again. I will say again, let's be here. Let's be part of this event. There's a lot to learn. There's a lot to share. And I'm sure we're going to have a very good time. Thank you. Thank you so very much. So back to you, Frank. Back to you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. President. And we are indeed excited to also hear from you. And we welcome everybody once again. Thank you for making time to join this session. Yes. All right, so we move on briefly to the next thing on the agenda. We would like to quickly take why we are here, what's ISC2 all about, and what do we stand for? All right, basically what do we stand for? All right, so ISC2 is a body of highly sought out global security professionals and security practitioners. And we have a core mandate of ensuring that as much as possible, we spread or we improve the skills of our security professionals in every industry through awareness and platform discussions. The Nigeria chapter particularly has received twice in a row the Chapter Recognition Award for the EMEA region for being the best performing chapter in the region. And that shows a lot of commitment from every one of us. That shows a lot of parts that every one of us have had to play, because this is not about the president, this is not about the vice, the secretary, this is not about the officers, it's about every one of us that has taken time to be part of all these events. We've taken time to draw up initiatives together. We've taken time to do things together. So as much as possible, we want to say thank you to everyone. This particular year, we have also done the third time in a row, but we just had to step down for other people to also collect their award. But definitely, we will also be encouraging and nominating even some of our chapter members, for other awards, because we are doing excellently very well. And the global chapter has recognized Nigeria to be one of the chapters to look out for. Even within Nigeria, one of our speakers was nominated to be the representative when it comes to diversity. And he will be coming up to also speak to us on this as well. So we want to say a big thank you to everyone here on the call. Even those that are not on the call, we want to say thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for doing great wonders. And as we all know, the reward of good work is what? More work, more work. And we want to keep the flag flying, and we will be reaching out. I'm sure you've seen that because that's part of our agenda. We want some programs, so we are going to be doing much more. We will reach out to schools. It's also to reach out to government institutions. So we have a lot when it comes to what we plan to do. Okay, just notice that my presentation has gone out. All right. Please confirm if you can see my screen. Yes. Okay. Yes. Frank and Sam, please confirm you can still see my screen.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much. So we still plan to do quite much more. There's a lot in the works, but I wouldn't want to announce. I'll leave the president to do the groups going on, study group for CSSP, study group for the will have you support us once again. So thank you. Part of our goal is to continue to connect like-minded people and ensure that as much as possible, we are together as one in what we do, right? We think alike, we work alike, and we also showcase what we have together. We also intend to educate and inspire through knowledge sharing, through our various meetings, and ultimately secure and protect the cyberspace, right? These are our goals for in Nigeria. So we want to say thank you to everyone. All right, so let me just confirm we have our first speaker on the call. All right, so we have our keynote speaker. So without much ado, we'll just like to introduce our keynote speaker. And our keynote speaker for this great conference is none other but Mr. Tope Aladenusi. So Mr. Tope Aladenusi is the risk advisory leader at Deloitte and Touch West Africa. He leads the cyber risk team for Deloitte Nigeria. Tope was the pioneer staff and is the leader of the cybersecurity business within Deloitte Nigeria, and which is currently the largest cybersecurity team in Nigeria. They provide services end to end within Deloitte, and the team he led represented Africa at the Global Cyber Olympics in 2015, and they had the best results during the finals competition at Washington, D.C. Tope has provided assurance and advisory services to over 30% of the companies quoted on the stock exchange and 85% of commercial banks in Nigeria, with experience across over 35 countries, several countries. He's also got the Cybersecurity Recognition Award from the Information Security Society of Africa in October 2017 and received a recognition from the Office of the National Security Advisor for Nigeria in June 2014 for his contribution to the national cybersecurity agenda. Tope was the Isaka Lagos president between 2015 and 2017, and under his leadership, the surplus of the association grew by 1,967%. I'm sure a lot of us are wondering, this one are we really correct in terms of the figures? But those are the figures, right? He's also the co-champion of the Science and Technology Policy Commission of the Nigerian Economic Summit Group. He's currently the presiding minister of the Christ Treasure Center and the president of the Christ Lifeline Ministry. So please, thank you, and join me to welcome Mr. Tope Aladenisi to the floor. Thank you, Tope. I hope you're on the call. So I need to give him permission to unmute. Right. All right. I hope you can unmute now.
Yes, I can.
Thank you, sir.
Just confirm that. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. And it's so good to be here. I want to start by acknowledging the leadership of ISC2 Nigeria for inviting me to participate and to deliver the keynote address for this conference. And I believe that we are all going to have a great time. I also want to congratulate you for the great work you are doing. I remember several years ago when I started my cyber security career, I was so eager to have to be a CISSP and a member of ISC2, and it was one of my biggest goals because I consider CISSP as the most prestigious security certification. So it was a dream come true to eventually become a member. And so today I'm quite excited that over the years we've learned a lot, and we can also share with one another what we are doing and how we can be ahead as far as cybersecurity is concerned. So thank you so much for the invitation. Of recent, I attend a lot of conferences, and I begin to see that cyber is a buzzword. And many people understand cyber, but some don't even understand cyber. And everywhere you go, people are talking about cyber, and it's good, because you see the way people who don't even know cyber, people who are business people, the way they talk about cyber. So everywhere we go today, we hear cyber, 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 cyber. And while I was just preparing for this, and this topic of staying cyber resilient, I recalled what happened to me sometimes in, I think around 2006, where I was hacked. And I want to ask all of us, have we ever been hacked before? If you've never been hacked, you will probably not appreciate what it is to be hacked. I used to lead an NGO then, which that had a website. So I logged onto the site to the admin panel to check some stats. And as soon as I logged on, I saw a black screen and an image. Then someone was laughing. It was a program something. The person was just laughing, and they were chanting some things at the background in Arabic. So imagine you log into a portal whereby every day you log onto that portal, and you're expecting to log on and go where you would ordinarily go to do your work. And now you log on, you see a black screen, you're hearing a sound so loud, somebody is laughing at you, and you're hearing some Arabic words which you don't understand. I would never forget that experience. There was a cold that ran through my body. I don't even know what to do. I never preempted it. I never thought about it. That was about 16 years ago. At that time, nobody was talking about cyber resiliency. and people were just getting into cybersecurity, even in Nigeria. It was just people are just talking about it. That thing, it rattled me, and I didn't even know what to do. So I thought that was the end of that site. I thought we had lost that site forever. I thought we had lost that domain forever. It was after a few days or hours, it then occurred to me that, oh, by the way, let me reach out to the hosting platform and even tell them that this is what has happened. When I did, the guy said, yeah, that they had a problem, not just us, all these websites that have been posted on a particular platform. It was a shared platform, that we had a similar issue. They are working on it, and they will restore our site back. When I heard that they restore our site back, I was like, wow, so we get that site back. Wow, great. I thought that was the end. Now, fast forward to today, when we're talking about cyber resiliency, we are not like that time whereby we are clueless. That really shaped my life, because I took cybersecurity very seriously. Unlike many people that just get into it because they read it in books, I experienced a cyber attack. And looking back, we see that now we've come to understand resilience. In the past, whereby we said we'll protect ourselves from hackers and ensure that they never get us, now everybody has come to agree that it is about when and not if, as far as attacks are concerned. And now we're talking about resiliency, whereby we have that ability in our organization to withstand or to quickly recover from cyber events that disrupt business operations. So this is the thinking that we see now. How do you quickly, how can you even withstand such attacks? And how do you quickly recover where there are disruptions? Now, we've seen that many companies can't seem to withstand these days, and some can withstand, but they don't seem to be able to recover. And so I want to just touch on a few things, because I understand that a number of speakers are coming. I've seen the line of speakers. They are well-experienced people who will probably go down and talk about some of the nitty-gritty as we go along in this conference. So I can't exhaust everything, but I want to just emphasize on a few things that, based on my experience, are very important. They are lacking, and we are not taking care of them well, or a few things that we are omitting. I'm privileged to have worked with a number of organizations, like it was read in my profile. I've worked with over 85% of the banks in Nigeria, for the GSM companies, 75% of them, and several companies on the stock exchange in various industries, including government. And with what I see daily, I want to speak directly to those things, looking at how we can be resilient. The first is, I will talk about three things: governance, culture, and resilience. Everything starts with governance. And I believe that this is an area where we talk about it, but in practice, I have not really seen it, in practice. So I've seen a sense of it, a type of it, but not yet like it should be. The first thing we've always said is that there should be a strategy. We should have a cybersecurity strategy that helps us to understand our cyber risks in relation to our business operations. And then we come together as leaders in the business to drive cybersecurity. We've said it over and over again that cybersecurity should be led by the board and not by IT, not by technology, and not even by CISOs. Nowadays, initially it was led by IT, but now it's still led by, in many cases, it's led by CISOs, not the board. So it's like everybody just defaults to the CISO. Depending on the CISO you have, that determines how things will go. And we're saying, no, let the board lead. Let the tone set at the board level, not how powerful or how weak the CISO is. Let it be based on how the strength and the might of the board. And what we need to do is to ensure that we educate our board, we give them necessary information that they need or structure or composition to do well. I was talking to a board of directors, was it last week? No, this week. And one of the things I mentioned to them was that they should be reviewing, they were asking the question, how often should they be looking at cybersecurity issues? I said, if you have a risk committee, for instance, because most boards have a board risk committee, every quarter when you are looking at your risk, you should look at cybersecurity and you should be driving it. So it starts from there. This should be a board issue and we should look at everything, plan for everything, plan for our people, plan for our systems, plan for our processes, and also for third parties. One of the things I've seen now is that many of us are depending on third parties. And unfortunately, those third parties are depending on third parties, and everybody is depending on another third party. And the web of dependencies is usually unknown. So we only know when we think about recovery, when we plan resiliency, we are looking at the things within our control, but it should scale to our third parties. We need to provide sufficient guidance for them, monitor what they are doing. So that's talking about strategy. And in building a strategy, putting the right governance in place, we should also be ensuring that the cybersecurity basic hygienes are there. You cannot be bouncing back when you are not even strong in the first place. So it starts from the basic. I haven't been in this for some time. I've come to realize that we all still need that basic. And that's why I like the CISSP course. The CISSP course takes everything and dimensions every layer of security. We called it there the 7 OSI layers. It still boils down to that. Of course, right now we are stretching it further. We're having different interpretations to it, but it still boils down to, having good basic cyber hygiene, ensuring that we have the essentials in place, because your recovery will be based on the essentials, and ensuring that we have the right people. I strongly believe, this is my own personal belief now, you may not agree, I think cybersecurity is under siege. We have been hijacked by people who are not specialists. Go everywhere, you see people talking about cybersecurity, and some of them have never practiced it before. In fact, the people who are at the forefront of cybersecurity today, many of them, they've never practiced cybersecurity before. And they are talking about it, they are discussing about it. They go online, they pick statistics here and there. They talk about 1 or 2 war stories that they've had. They sound very convincing, and they are at the forefront. I think that's something for us as an association, because we are a professional body for cybersecurity specialists, and we must ensure that we protect this profession so that we can build resilient organization. If this profession is not protected, there is no way we can build resilient organizations. Let me give an example. Have you seen anybody going to talk about law when they are not lawyers? Or go to talk about accounting or financial statements when they are not accountants? You rarely see that. You rarely see people at the forefront of law or forefront of accounting when they are not lawyers or accountants. How come in cybersecurity, people just go pick materials, put them together, dust them together, and they are at the forefront, they are dictating the pace? Because as association, we are just still looking at this in silos. So for us to really be, in that situation whereby we can bounce back, we can have resilient organization, it goes beyond our various systems and our various companies. We have to protect the ecosystem. I think the ecosystem is under siege. We need to ensure that as professional body, we take this seriously, that these things are not hijacked by charlatans, so that we all get the first principles right. We need to get the first principles right as far as cybersecurity is concerned. Many people are not doing cyber. They don't know it, but they are going around talking about it, speaking about it, collecting contracts. And so this is now weakening the resolve of many boards about cybersecurity. I'll tell you, for instance, I've spoken to a number of boards. Many of them are concerned because today this person talked to them, says this other person talked to them, say this. Everybody's talking about an investment, and they're asking, we're just spending we can't really see what we are doing. So this is something I really would have us to look at. Now, another thing I want to talk about is about investment. Investment in cybersecurity. One thing I've noticed, and I'm speaking to Nigeria specifically right now, because it's good for us to talk about our issues. One thing I have realized is that one of the major things causing our problem in Nigeria is the way we are investing in cybersecurity. Our investment, we need to ensure that they are proportionate and they are focused appropriately. And there is that sufficient balance between people, skills, and technology. You know, boards should ensure that we have the right investment. And even as leaders in cybersecurity, I want to beg all of us that we put the right investment. Let me tell you what I've heard a lot of board of directors say. They are tired of spending. They are saying, I spend so much, and yet we don't see any results. Of course, it's a difficult thing. This is another conversation, measuring the return of investments, knowing how you're making progress. That's another conversation entirely. But if you look at when you now go to some of those organizations, people get contracts, award contracts with their friends, award contracts with families, divert money here and there. One person is chopping money or the other. And this is affecting the way cybersecurity is being perceived. You know, some people go to the board, they scare them, and after scaring them, they extract money. And boards are beginning to lose confidence. You know, and this is affecting the whole resiliency of organizations to combat cybercrime. Now, these are things that are not usually discussed, but it's a major issue. Now, somebody once said this, and I really agree with the person. In Nigeria, we have these things of people getting contracts, giving their friends contracts, you know, doing things, looking for where to get money in fake contract. You can do so for tissue paper. You can do so for other things, but not for cybersecurity. Cybersecurity will hit you anytime. If you are playing with cybersecurity, just a matter of seconds, a matter of weeks, you will be embarrassed. If you want to give tissue paper contract, you can give it to your family or friend. But when it comes to cyber, you make sure you are employing the best, because you will soon be tested. Hackers are everywhere all over the world, testing people's systems. And I've come to realize that this is a major problem. I've seen organizations whereby for the same problem, they've invested different solutions. One person bought this one, another person, another department bought this one, and everybody is just buying, not because they're trying to solve the problem, but because they wanted to issue out contracts and get something from it. This is something that we need to look at as cyber professionals. If you are in security, you need to make up your mind that I'm not cut out for those kind of things, because it will bite you. It's not, there's some joy if it's a call center, yeah, if calls come or call not come, it's a different thing. But security, the bad guys are out there. We have to do the best. We have to make sure that we are getting the investments right. And also have a steering committee that is overseeing everything that we are doing. A steering committee that with the board's involvement, they are prepared to respond. Everyone knows their responsibility. We are testing ourselves. So what I've been talking about so far is about the governance. Listen to this, I've come to realize that the governance matter a lot, right? No matter what you are doing at other levels, if you don't get strategy right, you are not getting the investments right, we are not getting the right people, we are not protecting the profession and ensuring that the right set of people are doing the right things, it's just a matter of time we are going to be losing this war. And when we lose this war, we are going to be seen out there as people who are just talking and just creating fear, and we will be seen as a kind of a terrorist, because terrorists are people that terrorize people and make people terrified. We will be seen as a kind of terrorists who just come and talk about problems and they are not seeing anything. So once we get these governance rights and we are ensuring that we are spending right for security, taking care of the basics of security, we are setting ourselves up to be good, resilient organization. Then once we have done that, we can then begin to address issues of culture by setting the tone at the top, investing in training. We do a lot of awareness and less of training. We need to upgrade from awareness to training. We need to have the right skills. Skills within the cybersecurity department, skills within IT, skills within people in HR, people in procurement. We need to train. we need to do a lot of training. For instance, secure coding is a major training that many organizations have. Many companies are designing apps, bringing out softwares, but the people who are doing this design, they are in their mind, when we are done, security will come and take care of it. They need to be trained on how to embed security in their design. So these are things that we need to do, the right training, and ensure that everyone is seeing cybersecurity as their responsibility. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is resiliency, which is, and I will talk about preparing people and our businesses for better outcome. I love something that Mike Tyson once said. He said, everyone has a plan till they get punched in the mouth. Mike Tyson was one of the most popular boxers in the world. And he says, even in boxing, people have a plan. But when you get punched, you will know that you will know whether your plan was good or not. So we need to prepare. We need to prepare. And this is something we need to focus on. I'm speaking today with some bleeding in my heart because of what I have seen. We have been involved in a number of high-profile investigations in the last 1 year. We see a lot. And we have noticed that many times companies are not prepared. And they have CISOs, they have people like us, but they're really not prepared. Right now, the landscape is changing. In the past, we used to talk about insiders, how we should watch out for them, and hackers out there. Now we are seeing insiders colluding with hackers. That's a deadly combination, whereby somebody's already inside and is colluding with somebody who is very experienced out there. Sometimes they tell them, just open this gateway for me, open this port for me, just do this for me and leave it. That's what you should do. And we've started to see that. We've done investigations whereby that was how it ended up. It was a collaboration between somebody, for instance, in technology, opening the space for somebody outside. And sometimes those technology guys, they will do it very well. They will say they are troubleshooting, or the system is malfunctioning. And in a bid to say, let's resolve the malfunction, they'll say, oh, we need to stop this service, or we need to open this stuff. And they can do it with a good mind that we're trying to resolve the problem so that the system is available. By the time they will strike, it's not when there is another problem, it's 1 month later. But in that during that resolution, they open something up. 1 month later, the bad guys are already striking. They do it in a very calculative way. So we need to ensure that we are looking at everything that is going on. When we are making changes to system, what people are doing. If you call, I've seen a number of, ransomware cases whereby even the backup, when they went to the backup was hard to write them about. Some of them, the backup are not working. I've seen instances whereby people go and change settings in database, give access to database, turn off two-factor authentication, try to make changes from the back end. So many things. I think these are things that are being done. There was a particular case we did recently. We tried to find out, because client said, tell us what happened, when it happened, how it happened, and how we can stop this in the future. And in this particular case, the attacker got in and was in the system for over 6 months before they struck. And you know what was interesting? The SIM solution, or the SOC, picked it, but the analyst closed it. That we had looked at it, everything was fine. The analyst closed that case, but that was what led to the entry, because of the way they interpreted it. Their level of education was not so much to the point that they did not know that that was a serious problem. They closed the case, and that was the entry point. From there, that guy came into the system, started moving from system to system, understood the system. I've seen instances where somebody stayed in the system for over 8 months, put spyware before they eventually struck. So these are things that we are seeing. These are things that are becoming very common and very rampant. And so we must put the basics right before we even start saying we are bouncing back. And once we have all those things in place, we have to now rehearse realistic scenarios that provide a safe environment for individuals and groups to recognize that we have the capabilities to respond positively and to recover quickly. For instance, the scenarios I just described right now are common scenarios. Ransomware is becoming common. IT complaining that we need to make changes to the system and then thereby opening something on an attacker is now becoming common. We, people, collaborating with people outside is becoming common. We have about 5, 6 common scenarios. So these are things that we need to rehearse and prepare for. Avoid boiling the ocean. Let's just prioritize and say, okay, these are the areas where I begin to see trends, especially in other organizations. You may not have come to you, or it may have come to you, and see what can we do as an organization to prepare for this. Practice it. Assign key roles and to individuals and say, okay, for instance, ransomware is one of the most deadly that happens to everybody now. Every one of us in the organization, we should have done a simulation for ransomware to say, if we are hit by ransomware, what do we do? We assign roles to people, we test the major place, ensure that everyone learns their mistake, and then we go back, update our whatever we are doing. And if we are recovering and we are going through this process, it's not about recovering systems, it's about recovering core business services, ensuring that those services are still available if there are issues. So as I begin to summarize, what am I trying to say? There are a number of panelists that will discuss this shortly, but what I'm trying to say, I'm just trying to stretch our minds to say, first of all, you go back to your work on Monday. What can you do differently? Check your governance. Look at your governance. Look at your strategy. Look at where you need to update. Look at the involvement. Look at if you have the steering committee. Check if people are cutting deals with cybersecurity investments and see how you can stop it. Learn to go for the best and go for the right people, because those that call this is going to backfire upon them. You can't do that. This is not tissue paper. This is cybersecurity. It will come to you, to haunt you. Set the right tone, set the right culture, identify the critical attacks that you're likely to face. It could be ransomware, it could be denial of service, it could be somebody trying to attack the systems, in terms of hacking. It could be somebody in Haiti trying to do something. Look at those possible scenarios. It could be like 6. Plan them. You can do 2 in a year. And you can start with a tabletop exercise, for instance. A tabletop exercise is that you do it by sitting down together and say, if this happens, what should we do? What's the next? And everybody's talking around it and you hear and document. You don't go and rehearse live, but you are just rehearsing in discussion mode and taking the lessons that you are learning, ensuring that we're on the same page. That may be how you start for this year. By next year, you can grow to say, okay, let's now do actual practice. So these are things that we can start doing. And I believe that as we do that, and don't forget, let's protect this industry. We have a lot of people coming in who are not specialists, who are claiming to be specialists. As we begin to do that and we protect this industry, I believe that we are going to do very well. Thank you very much. And it was good talking to you today. Thank you for the privilege. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you. Samuel, you're on mute. Okay. Just speaking.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Tope. We really appreciate the insight you have brought into this. It's always very good that when one is speaking from an experience perspective, you bring in a lot of insights, right? Because you have been there, you've done it, you know what it is, right? So I'm so excited for the insight that you've provided. I'm sure everyone else on the call have learned 1 or 2 things. I don't know if there are questions from anyone. Is there any question from anyone for Mr. Tope Aladenusi? Is there any question before we move to the next item on the agenda? I'm going to ask every one of us, please, let's inform our colleagues, our friends that needs to be here. There are a lot of insights that will be shared, as the event continues. Someone says, nice to see Tokwe. Yeah, nice to see everyone. So any question from anyone before we move to the next item on the agenda? Okay, so it means that the keynote speech was very well delivered. It should, okay, somebody said it should add more light on governance. Okay, shed more light. I think the question is shed more light on governance. Okay, Tokwe, I don't know if you want to say anything relating to that. I think a question here says, you should shed more light on governance. Maybe in like 1 minute, would you be able to respond to that? Thank you.
All right, thank you. Everything I've noticed in security is boiled down on governance. And it starts by, first of all, cybersecurity should not be led by security. It should not be led by IT. It should be led by the board. So it's led by the board. Also, we have a steering committee that runs cybersecurity. We have a strategy in place, and that strategy talks to our business strategy. That is very important. Then we also have the right organization within security, which means the way we have put our organizational structure and who the CISO reports to matters. One of the things you must fight for is that the CISO should report to the board. Now, for instance, the central bank have said that all CISO should report to this MD. The central bank have said that all CISO should report to the MD. But I can tell you that in banks are looking for a way to manage that. They will say, put it in paper as MD, but they are allowing the CISO to report to either the chief risk officer or something. We must keep looking for creative way to make sure that we fight that and let the CISO report to the MD, because the reporting line is part of governance. We must ensure that we are taking the right actions, making the right spends, and the spend is being approved by the steering committee. So these are the kind of, the tone at the top is what this governance is all about. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tokwe. It's also important to mention that the business is not a cybersecurity shop, right? So there is business objective and goals that needs to be delivered. So cybersecurity is more like an enabler. So aligning our cybersecurity strategy with the business strategy is very, very crucial and important. And that goes to say, learning from what Tokwe have said, it's not one size fits all. So you need to really have a deep understanding of the business and the business strategy. It's not because these tools have been deployed in other banks, our bank must deploy it, right? So you need to understand the risk tolerance of the business, the strategy of the business, and aligning the cybersecurity strategy in line with the business strategy. Thank you very much. I think that's a very good one. We really appreciate your time. And I'm sure, Tokwe, you will still be here as we continue the conference because there are other interesting activities that will be happening alongside. Thank you very much. So Frank, do you want to then take over so that we go straight to the next event? Frank, over to you. Once again, thank you, Tokwe. Thank you. Frank, you're on mute if you're speaking.
Oh, yeah, thank you very much. I must say that is a very insightful discourse from our first speaker. That shows the loads and the resource persons that we have lined up for each and every one of our sections today. I indulge each and every one of us. Let's be patient. We have more seasoned speakers coming up. We'll be moving on to our first panelist section. That will be handled by our able president, Mr. Samuel. Mr. Samuel, you have the floor. You can invite your speakers so that you can also benefit from their words of experience. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Frank. Thank you once again. So we're going straight into the first panel session, and we have our panelists, they're already here. They've been here for a while now. And the topic that we'll be discussing is the challenges with addressing and dealing with cyber attacks. I have Harrison Inaji, who is the CISO for First Bank of Nigeria, who will be part of the panel session. Welcome, Harrison. I also have Bharat Soni, the CISO and the DPO for Guarantee Trust Bank. Bharat, thank you. Good to see you after a very long time. And I have, I have Ayowole Kupola, who is the CISO for FCMB. Ayowole, welcome. Can you put on your camera? Yes, I can see Ayo. Wow, these are people I've seen in a very, very long time. Very wonderful people. I can tell you, I've worked with all of them, and I understand, I know the tough that they are made of when it comes to cybersecurity. So I'm sure we're going to have a very good time. So I would just say we should all sit back. If you have a pen, you have something you want to use to jot something, please go ahead and pick it up, because there are a lot of insights you're going to get from this topic. So thank you, everyone, once again. Thank you, our wonderful panelists. Thank you for being on time. I will go straight into it. It is important to mention, like the keynote speaker said, right? Organizations that are cyber aware and cyber sensitive are putting on the cap, of assuming a breach, which is very important, because the keynote speaker said something. He said it's not about if. He said it's about when, right? So it's important to know that, like someone will say, there are two kinds of organizations: those that have been hacked and are aware, and those that have been hacked but they are not aware. So typically everybody is being hacked. So it's either you know or you don't know it, right? So this session, we're going to be talking about the challenges with addressing cyber attacks, ranging from the different attacks that we know of today, that we've heard of, that we may have experienced, from ransomware attack, from IoT attacks, cloud attacks, phishing attack, social engineering attack, and all of that. So we'll have our panel list that will be doing justice, to that topic. So I'm going to start by asking the first question, and I'm going to put that question straight up to, I'll start with Bharat. Bharat, I hope that's fine, right? So I'm going, so I'm going to put up the first question to Bharat, and then we'll then take it up with the other panelists. So Bharat, the first question is, how do you address the leadership challenges of dealing with cyber attacks, right? How do you address the leadership challenges with cyber attack? The typical example is what many of us are familiar with, the recent events with Uber, right? I'm sure we all know the story. We know what came out of it. So Bharat, would you just give that a shot quickly? How do you address the leadership challenges of dealing with cyber attacks, looking at the Uber case? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Samuel. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here, and I was here for a small time, and I saw what Tope mentioned, including his own experience and challenge at the top level to the CISO level until the team level. So I think those were very insightful, and coming on the same line, what Samuel just asked, from a leadership perspective, there are multiple challenges as a CISO you need to face. I will just go very generic in nature about those challenges that are being faced, and I believe majority of us have faced those challenges. First thing first, CISO so far has been seen as, a person who is just trying to counter all the impacts on the organization, whether it's his response or her responsibility or not. CISO is responsible for everything. So from a leadership perspective, even Tope mentioned earlier that the reporting line is a very key, so that the tone is being set at the top. Who is been responsible around it? When we talk about the top leadership involvement, it's like a governance issue because it's a top-down approach, not a bottom-up approach. So from this leadership perspective, apart from that, once you have a support, maybe for all good things, you have support from top management. Then comes your own knowledge areas, your own understanding of the knowledge, and how you're communicating it to the board. If I go and tell my board that I have a SQL injection 1 = 1 kind of scenario, they'll say, what is this? I need to understand the communication part between the board, my team, and the users at the end side. So the communication is a very key part. Apart from that, from technical or from the job role perspective, I can say that as a CISO, you have like from a cybersecurity perspective, we all know that CISO or the organization's information security team has to be right 100% in every time. No single, we can't say that we have to be right by 99.9%. No, we have to be right 100%, because when a hacker attacks, they just need one single loophole, and that loophole will create havoc everywhere. I will summarize quickly that how a CISO or the leadership can be more engaging into things. First thing first, from a leadership perspective, what they want to see is how are we preventing things? What are our preventive measures? We cannot say that we are into detective mode. Detection means we are always running or chasing behind things. So we have to convince, and we have to showcase the management that yes, we are at a preventive mode, not at a detection mode. Detection is post facto thing. Then we have to also communicate how security is an important aspect for the business. We cannot say that security is information security, cyber security is about securing business. No, these days information security is part of the business. From the conception of the idea that the business wants to, for example, launch a product, business want to go to an end user customer, that information security should be part from the initial conceptual level itself, so that when we move ahead, it has been engrossed into the whole process and the whole idea. Then every day the landscape is been changing, so the whole team has to be updated, and the whole team has to be available from the knowledge perspective. Another big challenge is about selecting the right partners from an information security perspective. We can select a partner, but are we 100% dependent on the partner? Is the partner right? When a crisis actually happens, because you can't say that you can avoid a crisis. Crisis will happen. There's no guarantee that crisis will not happen. But when crisis happen, who is available as a partner to stand with you? Whether the partner has a third party, fourth party, fifth party connections, and that's where the risk is coming. Looking at the Uber case itself, it was not a Uber who is responsible for it, but the supply chain was being compromised. So you need to rely on your supply chain, whether you're selecting the right partners. Are they practicing? Why I'm using the word partner and not a vendor? Because in the information and cybersecurity domain, you cannot say I'm relying on a vendor. The responsibility is being shared. It becomes a partner issue now. The organization and the so-called vendor in earlier days is your partner now, because they both, the team and inside the organization and your partner, ensures that everything goes well. Same practices I'm doing into my organization are being followed at my supply chain throughout the level, and consolidating your efforts rather than having silos approach within organization, within your subsidiaries. You have to also consolidate your efforts and the thought processes. So typically these may be the 5 burning points, you can say, at a leadership level, and as a CISO you need to tackle these things properly. So that's how I will summarize this thing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bharat. Thank you. Thank you for those insights. Well delivered. Before I move to Harrison, can I ask everyone on the call that have questions, please to type in their questions in the chat box. Remember, the topic we are talking about is the challenges with addressing and dealing with cyber attack. The challenges with addressing and dealing with cyber attack. That's the topic we're looking at in this panel session. So if you have questions in that line, please put them up on the chat box and I'll read them out as the session continues. So Harrison, can we have your thoughts, your view around this? How do you think we should address the leadership challenges, with dealing with cyber attacks? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Can you confirm you can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, and thanks everyone again. And thanks the leadership for all the efforts. Even though I know they say we'll not win award this time, but I think we've even done more than when we were winning awards, but it's okay. So let me first speak to the issue of Sullivan of Uber, right? And it goes back to what I will always say, that when your job competes with your career, go for your career, okay? And just let the job go. Just go for don't sacrifice your career on the altar of your job, okay? Don't take actions that can jeopardize your career because you want to protect your job. Because when it reverses, you may have more to lose, okay? And this is so fundamental, so fundamental. Sometimes I see people jeopardize their career because they're trying to save their job or trying to support a motion or a notion that is ignorable, okay? So that's very key. It's very unfortunate, but I think there are a lot of lessons to learn. When it comes to how you manage leadership challenges, that's what the question is. How to manage leadership challenges. There's another thing I have said, which is when it comes to management support, okay? Mm-hmm. Do not go for approval first. Go for comprehension and understanding, okay? Don't seek approval. I always say, when you seek approval, people approve what they don't understand or what they will implicitly resist it. Do you understand? I will give an example. Take an open office, for example. You can make presentation on open office, talk about all the benefits, talk about how healthy it is, talk about how you can plant flowers and be able to see everyone and get approval. Then you walk up to the executive and say, I will break down your office and your private toilet and all that. He will tell you, my friend, I don't know what you're talking about. That's when you say a project successfully failed. Do you understand? People are happy that a project eventually failed. Do you understand? So always seek comprehension and understanding first. And that's and I liked it when Tokwe was speaking about it being board-led. Board-led doesn't mean that board becomes a management committee, but it means that board understand the need for security. And once that happens, it becomes easy. And some of the ways you can achieve that is to provide transparent information. And I'm not talking about ransomware with protected ransomware 100 million in a day. No. I'm not talking about jargons and buzzwords of cybersecurity. No, I am talking about how cybersecurity can be overlaid on the business strategy, right? I'm talking about using business messages, business terms that everyone can connect to. I'm talking about raising a point that if we have a ransomware attack, we can have downtime for 6 hours, and that downtime can cost us a lot. So that becomes easy for everyone to say, we must not have ransomware. Then the issue of how to ensure that none comes in. Don't go to management with a list of projects to do. We need to revive firewall, we need to upgrade this, we need to, don't. Go with the business value. Go with the business value. And then put why things needs to be done in a certain way. Then you can put the how that can be done behind it. Don't put how. People have done this, let's do what. The only bank that have not done it. Who cares? And I think it was in another session when I said, I think it was even this week, when I said, listen, someone has said if a technology is proven, then adopt it, don't build it, okay? And I quickly said, no, if a technology is proven, reprove it in your own environment.
Right.
Because Lamborghini is proven. Nobody argues about the quality of Lamborghini as a car. But if my environment, my security, my road network cannot support it, it will end up a trophy. And so many Lamborghinis in Lagos are trophies. There are trophies. You go and open it, show people that you have the color, the model you have, talk about the speed. It ends up there, which means you need to adjust things and juxtapose it with your experience and your business. And when you're communicating to management, always identify, know that you cannot get 10 people to agree with you immediately. You cannot, because people come to things at different pace, okay? And even with different intentions. So identify your key people and make sure you bring them on board first so that they can help you reinterpret a few things the way the rest can understand it. That's another key point. Don't rush to bring everybody on board at the same time. You can bring them two at a time, three at a time, or even one at a time. Another key point is realize that whether you agree or not, everyone has an intention on anything. Whether you agree or not, everyone has an intention. So you must communicate in such a way that you try to understand those intentions and prove that what you're doing will even make it better. Do you understand? There are people, for example, there are people that ease of access is their primary desire. So when you go to them and say, I want to deploy to FA, do you understand? He immediately says, no, this will make things difficult for me as a person. Remember, whether you like it or not, they say separate self from office, okay? Separate self from office. But the reality is that charity will eventually start from home. If I don't believe it, even if I will sign it, I will only endorse it with my pen. But in my heart, I will not. And that is what will make the project successfully fair. So you need to be able to focus and make sure that you understand individual conflicts and position your communication to address it. Even if you don't address it completely, but provide enough information for people to understand that this is for the overall good. Do you understand? I mean, the person with 2FA, you can provide option, you can provide the hard and the soft. You can even provide facial recognition. You can provide other options. Do you understand? But emphasize the goal and the need ahead of how. I always say, listen, you must deal with the why we are doing it before you start discussing how, or when, or what. And Barak's point is also very key. The experience. The experience also matters. So when you have no experience, if, for example, you notice that your board are not aware or they are very distant from cybersecurity practices, instead of trying to sell them firewall and boost them and threaten them, get someone to provide them basic knowledge so that they can understand and appreciate. And sometimes it's better if it's an independent person. Do you understand? To speak to them and give them numbers and give them consequences, including regulatory consequences. Get them to activate that interest. Then going ahead to speak business language and alignment and enablement. And let them know that with this, we can fly. It's not the other way around. We are no longer a governance point or a control point. It is because of me that you will do RPA. It is because of me that you do digital banking. It's because of me that you will do, people who can consume our services from anywhere. And we can promote our services. When you position it that way, management will become easier, then you can get better results. Thank you, everyone.
Wow. Thank you very much, Harrison. That's very deep. Wow, our time is fast spent. Wow. There's a lot of information that has been shared that is even too deep. I'm sure we would, with time, be able to digest everything. Thank you very much, Harrison. That's very insightful. So I'll move over to Ayowale now. But before that, can I ask again, audience, please put up your questions in the chat box. Very important so that we can take all your questions as much as we can. Ayowale, what will be your contribution to that particular question? How do we address the leadership challenge, relating to dealing with cyber attacks? Over to you.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Nice to be here. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
We can hear you loud and clear.
Oh, great. So I don't want to repeat what my colleague have said. They captured it end to end. I just want to lay a bit of emphasis on what happened, with Sullivan, and then probably give one or two highlights. I mean, that incident is another validation of the saying in information security circles that the S in CISO doesn't really stand for security, but scapegoat. So the way to have dealt with that issue is for you to, maybe Uber to have led by the CISO and management to have had a detailed incident response plan that addresses different scenarios such as ransomware attack, DDoS, and simulate this scenario on a regular basis. During the simulation or walkthrough, all the different scenarios and outcomes would have been discussed, including ransomware payments and all the risk properly dimensioned. So the outcome of this exercise would then be captured officially with the incident response plan that the stakeholders would sign on to. So whatever decision you are making, there are consequences for those decisions. So and everybody's carried along. And that goes to a bigger discussion around leadership in the security world. Harrison, and Bharat, and even Tope before hit on this very clearly. What we just need to do as CISO, or security expert, is to find a way of making management understand exactly what the issues are, and the consequences. We need to be much more business focused and focus on the business outcomes. Somebody gave a very good analogy, and he said, look, the cyberspace is a space to be defended, just like your land, maritime, and your airspace. Unfortunately, when I want to defend my land space, I'll go and buy a tank. Everybody sees it. Buy some, crazy machine guns. Everybody can see it, can feel it. If I want to defend my airspace, I'll go and buy Tucano, solid, fighting airplanes. If I want to defend my maritime, I'll go and buy, warship, and the likes. And you can see it, you can feel it. The cyberspace, you are not able to see it. A lot of time, you spend millions of dollars, and nobody can see it. And that creates a challenge. So, it just in people's head, people can't relate with it. So, what we need to do as CISO is to ensure that all those things that we put in place must have a way of, having a dashboard and the metrics for management to be able to appreciate, and say, okay, maybe for my endpoint, this is where we are, maybe the target is supposed to be like 90%, I'm at 50%, and these are the things that needs to be done, to bring it down to, or to take it to, to threshold that is acceptable to everybody. So it helps everybody to, work towards a target. The technology guys, the security guys, as they are fixing those issues, you are seeing those metrics moving in the right direction. So until we get to that point where, you are not just talking big grammar and jargons, and there are very clear metrics of showing how having implemented the controls that you've suggested and getting some of those tools, you're able to show that you are moving in the right direction. And sometimes also good that you can compare with industry, people the same in your industry. Oh, these are the range that they have. This is where we are, and it gives them some perspective on what needs to be done. So that's just the other angle I want us to look at it. I mean, my other colleagues have done justice to the topic. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Iole. That's also very insightful. I'm sure we are all learning so much. I'm going to post the next question directly to you, Iole, right? Like I said earlier, if you have questions, please put it up on the chat box. Iole, we've said a lot about leadership, relationship, people, governance, but let's then come down to technical controls in managing cyber attacks. But this time around, we want to zoom into zero-day attack. That's one area that it gives CISO sleepless nights, right? Somebody was saying there was a joke, I think it was something I saw online where somebody was saying that there's nothing that troubles a CISO than when you use a statement that everybody have admin privilege on the network, right? In fact, that was so funny when I saw it, where somebody was, making different expressions to scare the CISO. Even at the highest level, the CISO was not scared, he wasn't bothered. But when the person said that everybody has admin privilege, everybody on the network has admin privilege, he so got scared, right? So that was very, very interesting. So the question to you, being a bit more technical, is how do we address zero-day exploits and advanced persistent threat attacks within the network? What are the bits? What are the actionable points? What are the things that we can do? Thank you very much. Over to you, Iole.
Okay, so essentially, all the kind of attack that happens, even 0-day or any name that you call it, you always have to go back to the fundamentals. So I'm sure a lot of us have had to deal with cyber issues, and at the end of the day, the solution has always been with us. So for me, the most important thing is that you have to deal with all your cybersecurity hygiene issues. You have to ensure that your endpoint security is working very well. You have to ensure that your email security is top notch, and it's been a lot of the issues are being filtered. You have to ensure that you are able to MFA any MFAbles. Do you understand? All instances. Zero-day attack are a bit difficult because, especially if they execute it, stealthily, very under the radar. Even your best anti-malware might not be able to detect it. Of course, they don't have the signature because it's something that people don't know yet. So what you now have to depend on is pattern and analysis. So, and that's the reason why, every now and then, everybody keeps talking about implementing an AI-powered solution, that can check patterns that is not normal, and because, you have those kind of intelligence, you're able to detect and investigate further and also find ways of, dealing with those issues. So for me, your threat intelligence, your ensuring that all your tools are, a bit AI powered so that you can detect anomalies, ensuring that you patch your system regularly, because at the end of the day, even when they take advantage of those vulnerabilities, they still need to move around. They need to do lateral movement. They need to compromise. They need to escalate privilege. All those stuff. If you have controls around it, it helps, to reduce the impact. All this stuff that we talked about. So implement labs, implement segmentation, where if there's a problem somewhere, you can isolate it, and it's not going to spread beyond those. All sorts of typical cybersecurity hygiene control that we normally put in place will help,
Yeah.
and that's always been is it ransomware, is it fraud issue, is it DDoS, any type of attack, you will still have to come back to deal with your the first principle around security, around your endpoint, around your identity. I mean, so you need an identity to carry out an attack. Then you need to run an attack on the resources, on an endpoint, on maybe a server or workstation and all the like. Then you need to move laterally, and all the different controls around each one of those areas. If it's properly implemented, then you can be a bit comfortable around what you put in place. Then the next thing is extra vigilance. You have to be extremely vigilant. I all agree that look, your protective controls might not help you, because that's becoming a baseline. We've had, just as Dr. said, internal and external collusion. So if your internal person is already compromised, they already have a leg in. The guy is a legitimate user on your platform. So all your preventive controls might not be enough. So the ability to be able to, pick out any anomalies, and investigate further, helps. One of the area that I think has always been a problem. I mean, we make a lot of noise around SIM, but SIM in itself, it's a bit overrated, especially the way they are configured. So we have a lot of incident that is all around, thousands, and you want to be able to ensure that what is the most important thing is what you are dealing with. Now, because if you have to deal with too many of those, I mean, you get overwhelmed, then the major issues will be lost in the ocean of events itself. So how well you're able to, ensure that it is what matters that's getting to your analyst and they are not overwhelmed. It's something that we're also still discussing in the industry. And, I believe that the way SIM are actually implemented now, it's not as helpful as it should be. So I want to know what is critical and deal with it immediately. I don't want to have to be arbitrarily categorize events, and at the end of the day, something will not happen. I realize that it's actually in what my analysts have seen. Maybe it wasn't properly categorized, or there are so many issues to deal. So those are the areas that I think we should focus on.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thanks a lot, Ayowale. I think those are very good points. I'll move over to Bharat. This we are wrapping up now, and this is the last set of questions we're asking. And if you watch critically, you see that we are trying to address the two major areas or the two major caps that a CISO should put on, right? Both the managerial skill and the technical skill, right? The leadership parts, buttresses a lot on, people management, relationship management, collaboration, partnership, and all of that. But we're then diving a bit into the technical bit. So Bharat, from your experience, right, how do you think that enterprises, organizations should deal with zero-day attack and APT related attack? APT, the advanced persistent threats, exploits, and attacks. So what are the tips that you think we need to adopt? Yeah.
So thank you, Samuel. But I would say I would start with one example before I answer this question. When you start your this second question, you gave an example of scaring a CISO. I was reading somewhere that it's not about a scare. The CISO has been scared. It's now the turn for the organizations to be scared whether someone really wants to take CISO's designation or not. Going back to this Uber example, where even the CISO was been verdicted into the court, and even the Twitter example, where the CISO was been called into the court and was been, being held responsible. But when a CISO goes to the board and asks for the, budget, they said, no, don't worry. This is something heavy. So, it's a round way analogy going forward in this cybersecurity domain, whether CISO should be the, on organizations or not. So ultimately it becomes board and CEO's responsibility. Anyway, for a 0-day and APT question, I would say that for a 0-day attack, typical scenarios, the things what you can look into is you are prepared from behavioral monitoring perspective. You're observing everything in your environmental. You're observing changes into your environment. What's happening, what's not happening. Top of it, there's no guarantee. That's why it's called zero day attack, because nobody knows about it. Even you have a best of the best behavioral monitoring change and things like that in your organization, it will still slip somehow somewhere. So your support from the board and from the top means the God. Those two things can help you. That God will support you, that zero day attack will not happen onto your organization, and board is supporting you in all your efforts. So from an APT perspective, Harishan also mentioned, even Tope mentioned earlier, that people or the attacks actually happen into they just observe the environment for a longer time, and that's how that APT is going to happen. They will impact you when they understand the processes, flaws in processes, they understand where technology flaws are happening, how you do certain activities. Maybe from a banking side, I can say end of the day, end of the month, or end of the backup time frame, when the system is going into DR side, what are the control lapses in your production. Those are the areas where these APTs actually happen. So the only thing which can save you around this thing is your preparedness around this and the thought processes. You need to think what can happen. While we say technology is a good thing and driving businesses everywhere, 5G is coming, we have social, we have RPAs, we have everything. The flip side of this thing is that these are the tools which are also used by malicious users. We adopt a new technology. For example, 5G is coming, we quickly adopt it. Speed. So you need to also understand that speed is also giving leverage to the malicious users. They can download with the same speed, they can leak your data with the same speed, they can even use the same speed to attack you. So it's always the flip side. We need to always understand APTs and zero day attack. I can only say that your preparedness, support from the board, and what you have implemented. These are the things which can save you. All your policies, process, technology, this has to be tightened. But one single loophole definitely will create a disaster in the organization. So that's just my thought process around it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Barat. Thanks a lot. So now, Harrison, over to you. We're wrapping up now. How do you suggest, as CISOs, as cybersecurity professionals, that we address zero-day attacks and advanced persistent threats within the enterprise?
Okay, so there are a few points. First, you say when you say 0 day, there's still a lot of debate on what 0 day is. Okay, there's a lot of debate around it. What exactly is 0 day to you, but not 0 day to the person exploiting? And sometimes you can have a 0 day that is announced, and if you have the right threat intel, you can quickly get to know, so you can take actions. Okay, if you don't have the right threat intel, you will know later, and by that time you may have been impacted. Okay, but usually you will find out that even when there's a 0 day exploit, it's not every organization that gets impacted, even every organization in that domain, in that city, right? Because there are practices that makes it a bit more possible for an organization to defend against certain kind of 0 day attacks. Let me give you an example. I have seen organizations say, oh, they want to consolidate and adopt a single OEM for their security solutions. Okay. And I say, no, that's not the best way to go. You have to do a multi-layered, multi-vendor, so that if there's a 0 day impacting a particular OEM, you don't create a pass-through. Do you understand? Because if you look at OEMs, Sometimes they're standardized on operating systems or intelligent operating system, iOS. So you may want to consider multi-vendor, multi-layered, okay? So that it becomes, you have a fighting chance. You have a fighting chance. There's also that practice of reducing your attack surface. I mean, even if it's 0 day and you have a very narrow attack surface, it's easier for you to respond. It's easier for you to respond. So it's very key that you continue to reduce your attack surface. It's also very key that you focus more on strengthening your patch management practice. Remember that 0 days still account to less than 5% of all cyber incidents, okay? The major incidents are actually known vulnerabilities, CVEs and all that. So continue to strengthen your patch management practice or vulnerability identification and remediation practice. Sometimes 0 day leverage on existing vulnerabilities, okay? 0 day exploit, leverage existing vulnerabilities. So if you have addressed that vulnerability, you may have a chance to be able to prevent an infection from the 0 day. There's also another key point of using heuristic tools. Now we call it more AI-enabled tools, okay? Tools that can look at behaviors rather than signatures. Do you understand? So that even though it's an exploit, one thing is, I always say there's a vulnerability, there's a threat, there's an exploit. Exploit can lead to a compromise, it also not lead to a compromise, okay? So you also need to use some kind of heuristic tools, or what you call AI. Today we can say is AI or machine learning enabled tools that can look at behaviors, not just signatures, and say, no, this is not behaving well, okay? And because it's out of pattern with my profile services, then I'm able to quickly detect or be able to resist it. In some cases, okay, it can also fit into your profile, then you have you have less chances of fighting back. You see that threat intel using next generation tool. I always say, listen, let me tell you one interesting thing, and I think Bharat also highlighted about 5G. Once I heard someone say, why is Nigerians not under heavy cyber attacks? Especially DDoS, for example. No, not DDoS, heavy cyber attacks. And the guy said the internet gateway is small. Do you understand? So it's not able to carry the attack traffic. So as we are promoting and clapping that our internet gateway is getting wider, we also need to know that the attacks that will come with it will become faster and will become far more reachable to a number of people. But at the end of the day, hygiene practices, you see, those day-to-day practices helps you, okay? Growth in terms of learning, I think Chokpa also spoke to the SOC analyst seeing an alert, but not being able to understand it. So he closed it and moved on. So knowledge is also key. Do you understand? Knowledge is key, so that even though when there's a 0 day attack, the knowledge of the first person that came in contact with it also matters a lot. And also we need to focus on that. But in all, invest on multi-layered solutions, layer your solutions. Don't have one big man at your gate and everybody inside sleeping, okay? Use modern solutions, reduce your attack interface, grow the skill and knowledge of your practitioners, and build your threat intel so that you can get to know what is happening on time. Thank you.
Wow, thank you very much, Harrison. Thank you so much, Bharat and Ayowale and all the members of the audience. I think it's been a very good time. There's a lot of insight that has been shared, a lot of knowledge, things that we already know before. We call it knowledge validation. Some of us, most of these things we are hearing for the very first time. So thank you for providing those insights. I'm going to just give each of you 5 seconds, right? To just give your last words. Like, I'm going to time it 5 seconds to just give your last word. But before I do that, I will just want to do a recap of the major points that have been shared today. But prepare for your 5 seconds, final words. So first is one of the panelists said we should always adopt a top-down approach. Ensure that the board is part, of the cybersecurity practices and all of that. Someone also said that we should always see that cybersecurity should be part of the business right from the conceptual stage. You don't bring cybersecurity late into the party, right? Cybersecurity should be seen as part, of the business. Another person said we should ensure that we do not go for approval. I like this a lot. Don't go for approval, but go for comprehension, right? Once your stakeholders understand what you're trying to pitch, you can then easily get the approval. Another person said we should always ensure that we identify our key stakeholders that can support us, right? That's very, very crucial. Knowing who our key stakeholders are so that they can support us and defend us, at every time and opportunity that we have. We should also always emphasize the why before we talk about the what, the how, and the when. The why is always very, very important. We shouldn't bring the what, the when, and the how first, but the why. Very, very crucial. Another person said that we should ensure that we defend the cyberspace. I like that one a lot, right? I likened it to the land space, the airspace, the kind of defense that we put to ensure that we take ownership and responsibility of those space. We should also bring that on board the cyberspace. We should ensure that we defend the cyberspace. So who are these defenders? You and I. Another person said we should ensure that we adopt a multi-vendor and a multi-layer approach in deploying cyber defense technologies and the likes. I think it's been a very good time. Thank you, everyone. Just your last word. I will start with Bharat in 5 seconds. Thank you.
Thank you, Samuel. So quick tips about being secure is good governance practices, good security hygiene, and learning, continuous learning and awareness. These are the 5-second tips for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Bharat. Over to you, Ayole. Ayole, your last words.
Yeah, so first thing first, let's deal with the cybersecurity hygiene issues and we'll be fine. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Harrison, over to you.
So for me, just for everyone, just keep pushing, keep striving, keep learning. It's not, we're not going to win, but we should not lose.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you. I like that. We are not going to win, but we should not lose, meaning that we should always put the cap that will continue to, engage, continue to fight and all of that. This is a very good session. I've learned a lot and I'm sure so you have. All the people that have questions in the chat box, don't worry, we'll respond to them directly as the event continues. Please and please don't leave, be here. There's a lot more that will be happening as the event continues. So I'm going to hand over to the overall anchor for the events. Frank, are you there? I'm handing over back to you. Thank you, everyone, once again. Frank, over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Samuel and the panelists. I really learned a lot from this section, addressing the challenges of dealing with cyber attack. It really shows that security is an enabler of business. It's not a showstopper. And I also learned a new coin word, which says that we have to put all the, we have to secure layer security. We have to secure our security using the layer approach. And we have to put MFA on all the MFA groups. That is a good catchy word. And I believe that we all understand what that means. Thank you very much. We are glad to have each and every one of you, and we look forward to having you in our next sections. And we believe that we are going to honor our invitation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next will be, thank you. Next, we'll be moving on now to the next presentation. That will be handled by Nkiru of PwC. And she'll be telling us more about organizational best practice for staying cyber resilient. Now we now know the importance of why we should stay cyber resilient. Now, what are the principles that we can adopt so that our organization will be among those who is considered to be cyber resilient? When we have issues, we can easily and quickly bounce back and provide necessary services. Kiru, the floor is yours. Hello?
We need to give her rights to unmute. Sorry, hold on. Yeah. Yes, Nkiru, you can unmute now.
Okay, great. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. And I will be talking to you today about organizational best practices for staying cyber resilient. All the sessions that we've had so far have been very, very insightful and profound. So I believe that this session will contribute to the conversations. I would like to hear your thoughts. Please participate. I have a lot to talk with. The first thing I would do is some questions. I want to also that we think what cyber resilience is in this new times. I'll talk about the best practices, and then we'll look at a couple of case studies and we'll talk about the do's and the don'ts. Okay. So let's put cyber resilience into context. I want you to please put in the chat box if you think this particular scenario I'm about to paint, and Zoom was sort of like the hero of the joining on the Zoom app. We don't about Zoom, or some people didn't really pay attention to. The platform gave rise to a new form of harassment, Zoom bombing. So what happened?
Hello, can anyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Okay, I think our speaker is having challenge with our internet connection. Nkiru, are you back? Simi, can we try and give her admin privilege?
Can you
Hello?
hear me now, please?
Let us speak.
Can you hear me?
Yes, okay, it's better now.
Yes, yeah.
Great, okay. Yeah, so we're talking about Zoom and the issues that Zoom had. As in, apart from it being a hero, termed the hero during the pandemic of organizations, the security standards with subpar. I think the one that really shook the internet was about the 5,000 accounts which were on the dark web for sale. And the way it happened really confused a couple of people, as in looking at the way Zoom was. We did not expect that kind of issue with Zoom. Okay, so I would just ask this question, knowing that some of us followed the Zoom issue. Do you think that this shows cyber resilience? Was Zoom cyber resilient? If you could just put it in the chat box, I would take a look at it. We'll look at the next one. This was a hospital ransomware that happened. What happened was the IT lead, the IT director quickly made a call. When there was a call that was made to him about a disruptive incident, people could not access systems. The IT director made this call to take all the systems offline. After he realized that a vendor of his who had access to his network was infected with ransomware. The good thing was that the hospital, after running this whole issue where everybody now goes back to manual and they're using pen and paper, the patient care wasn't disrupted. I want you to put in the chat box if this shows a cyber resilient situation. Okay, I can see no for the first question. For this one, does this show a cyber resilience arrangement? Yes, for the hospital one. Thank you very much. So this is going to be the last one I'll ask you before I continue with my presentation. This was about Marriott Hotel. Thank you. I can see your responses. Thank you. This was about Marriott Hotel. So in 2014, Marriott acquired Starwood, and the whole process was completed in 2016. But before acquiring Starwood, the company guest reservation system was infiltrated by cyber criminals via remote access Trojan. Now, the challenge was that Marriott Hotels did not conduct an assessment before acquiring Starwood. So they did not see that there were some issues. So moving forward to 2016, during the acquisition process, there was an oversight. The detailed cybersecurity audit was not done, so they did not identify the issues. What happened to Marriott was that in September 2018, if you look at that gap, they started having the conversations 2014. They identified the breach in 2018. That's a full 2 years after acquiring Starwoods. Marriott finally identified the breach due to the system security alert. I want you to type in the chat box too for this last question I have for you. Does this arrangement show a cyber resilient situation? I can see comments on the hospital. Okay, so Bonnie, I can see your comments. You're saying no concerning the Marriott situation. Thank you for that comment. So no. So no, thank you. Thank you for all the comments. So threat activities and Nigeria. What we see is a heightened, the INEC website being hacked. Across Africa, you see in Liberia, there was an overzealous hacker who enlarged the network of a rival. This happened in Liberia. We had another one where a website was hacked, and the millions of internet addresses were misappropriated from the African Network Information Center. All these are African scenarios. We know things are happening at the global stage, but in Africa, we're seeing a lot of things. Even in Nigeria, I mean, we've been called up for some investigations. And when we go in, you see that fraud was perpetrated, and it was an alert was sent. The person on the fraud desk could have picked it up, but because of fatigue, we know that right now the Great Resignation, people have left the organization, people have jackpot, and so you are seeing that people who should, what 10 or 20 people should be doing attend to this request. And the attack continued for a long time till she was able to get to that issue. We've seen cases where we're seeing IoT devices, we're seeing operational technology systems. If you look at the FMG space, FMCG space, we're seeing legacy system issues. People are not patching, just the basic things, and these are causing issues. We're seeing people who have, because of poor situation awareness, you have someone who has privileges and he uses his credentials on social media networks. And that is how cyber criminals got a hold of it and got into his organization. So that's just a few things that we're seeing on the African scene, on the Nigerian scene. Now, the common trend that we see is that cyber activity continues to become more sophisticated. The level of expertise required is decreased. And the trend that is clear is that we're moving from exploitation to disruption. That is what we're seeing. According to that, involved over 3,500 business leaders, technology leaders, just talking to them about what they have done about cybersecurity, what they are currently doing about cybersecurity, and what they should be doing in the future. And that's where our insights came in. We saw that the executives expect to see, at least 32% of executives expect to see ransomware. And I know we've had conversations today. There are a couple of things that we see, are common themes across Nigeria, across our industry. There are specific things that we're seeing. One thing that I want to point out is, the threat actor activity. So before now, we had other things. Okay, we say, okay, social engineering, phishing is still there, but there's a shift. We're seeing that insider threat is something that we need to look at. We need to take it very serious. We've also looked at redefining what cyber resilience is. But let's first of all do this definition about cyber resilience together. As in, simply put, the ability to bounce back. But is that obtainable? Will that help us in this new cyber normal? Cyber resilience is defined as the ability to anticipate, withstand, recover from, and adapt to adverse conditions. So it could be anything. It could be a ransomware attack, supply chain attack, whatever it is, any stress, any attack, any compromise on systems, you are able to bounce back. Now, the Disaster Recovery Institute has given us a formula for cyber resilience. And so we're looking at a combination of cybersecurity, a cybersecurity framework, and also a business continuity framework, combining that. So we have the prepare, we identify, we protect, we detect. And then the business continuity components, there is the response and the recover parts. Now, from what we are seeing in the industry, or what we are seeing, I am seeing another need. We are seeing the need to add something else to this formula, and that is the learning part. We need to start to learn from the mistakes of our colleagues. We need to start to learn from the mistakes that we have made internally. I have seen a situation where someone who knew about what happened within the industry came to his management team and wrote out the things that he thought that they should do, better going forward. And they did not do anything about it. And the same incident that happened in this organization that had a breach that he had seen and had gathered their lessons, gathered all the mistakes that they made and came to his organization. He saw the same thing happen in his organization, exactly how it happened in the former, in company A. He was in company B. So what were we saying? We need to start to learn. So cyber resilience is another dimension to security. It is not a siloed effort. We need to have leaders rethink cybersecurity. It is not supposed to be done in silos. It's a risk minimization exercise. Think about your response. It is not a risk elimination exercise. So what are we saying here? We're saying, forget about, so the right word is, do not just solely focus on preventing the attack. Assume the attacker is already in. That is what we need to start to think about. There are different frameworks that we can leverage. the first thing you need to do when you're talking about cyber resilience is you need to create formality around it. As it's a serious subject, we need to have the cyber resilience plan. We need to have the cyber resilience strategy, right? Topper also mentioned having a cyber risk governance committee. There has to be a committee that oversees this. We need to also engage the board. I mean, when we engage the board, sometimes you get the sense that the board doesn't even want to talk to the security leader. Why? He says, this doomsday mentality, the sky is falling mentality is enough. What we want to see is value for the money that we've already put down on the table. Sometimes they do not understand some of the concepts that we use, and they want us to play that role as a chief translator, a chief advisor, someone who can translate business issues to the technical teams, and from the technical teams to business language, and they understand money. So we need to change the way that we approach communicating with the board. There has to be a framework. So I'm showing you a framework now. If you pick up, you go to an organization where you're trying to implement cyber resilience from the start, you need to first of all set up your objectives. And looking at the side, you see some people set objectives to understand what's happening, to prepare, to prevent. And then you have a framework by the side. They are setting cyber resilience techniques that you're already applying within your organization. For example, I believe some of us have done our tabletop exercises. Some of us have a vulnerability management system in place. Some of us already have stress testing being done. We have communication plans. We already have backup disaster recovery testing. We have all of this in place. But then again, there are some areas that we will fall short. And that's where this component comes in. I want to recommend that we, as we're trying to rethink resilience, we are looking at things from the eye of the attacker, and also looking at things from the business part of things. So this model shows how the cyber resilience techniques that we already have, some we don't have, you are applying that to the cyber attack life cycle, the cyber kill chain. So then you want to start to weave things in. You start with a gap assessment to understand your gaps. You're plugging in the tools that you have. So your EDR, your SIEM, your antivirus, what are the controls that you have? You put them in. So you see the left side, cyber resilience techniques, adaptive response, analytic monitoring, all of that. What do you have around that? Do you have anything in place? When you look at the tools section, like the control side, do you have controls that will help you detect, that will help you analyze? So we're doing that mapping and coming up with a gap assessment. Why are we doing this? We want to be cyber resilient, and there's a gap assessment. So I know we talked about a heightened state of cyber alert, a heightened state of cybersecurity. We need to have that mindset. It's not a journey that will be completed. It's not a one and done thing, doing 3 days, 5 days, 2 months. It's a journey.
Hi,
Yeah.
can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, we can't see your slides anymore. Are you sharing a slide?
Oh, yes, I'm sharing it. I thought you saw it.
No, we can't see it right now. Maybe you want to reshare.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
And I believe at the end of the day, she's going to give us a framework so that we can definitely go through it again on our own.
Okay, thank you. Can you see my screen now, please? Kindly confirm that you can see my screen.
No, we can't. I can't see it yet.
Not yet. Not yet.
Yeah. Confirm if she's giving the right privilege.
Yeah, she can. She can share. You have the permission to share.
Okay.
Okay, just give me a second. Let me reshare.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for your patience. Let me do this again.
Okay, it's gradually coming up. Yeah, here we are.
Okay.
Excellent.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So let me just go back to where I stopped. So we're talking about the journey. It's not something we can do in 3 months. It's a journey. We need to understand the organization and its resilience needs. And I took us through how we can do that. Because of time, I can't go into it in detail. Then we identify and improve the resilience capabilities. We also monitor the resilience program against the target maturity states. So this is what we have. So I will just pause here and ask this question, please. Are you spending enough on the things that will make a difference in your cyber resilience? I'll just ask that question. I'll appreciate if you can put it in the chat box. I just want to hear from you. Thank you. Okay, not yet. Thank you for that response. Not yet. Okay, so we have a framework that we can work with, not yet. Okay, so it's essential that we start to think about these things. That's the question, not yet. Okay. Okay, so cyber resilience, let's talk about some best practices. So basic cyber hygiene, and you know, I mentioned this earlier, as some of the things that we see. There are some resilience techniques that we can apply, and this is just the basic ones. We have privileged access. You know, having proper password management, policy painted, and by the time we got in, that cyber incident response projects. So we need to be very intentional about doing the basics, checking these things, test your response and your recovery, look at your awareness, your backup, your patching. I mean, it's as simple as, you know, we all get ready for work, brushing our teeth and doing those things that are basic. We need to look at the basic things, because most times when we go and check, we see that because of these basic issues, a lot of organizations lose a lot of funds. So we had the case of someone who, let's say a privileged user who had his credentials sold on the dark web. We had a case where a disgruntled staff, she was known to be disgruntled. And, you know, nobody, the only checks and that they were having with her was, okay, just to check her mood, oh, don't get her upset. But before this lady left, she deleted everything on the drive, on the team drive. She had the access to do that. So it's about on being, you know, situationally aware, just checking those areas. We have people inside, we already see that their mentalities, the culture with them, the way that they are responding, they are not happy. A certain event has happened, and we are not taking this thing serious. So let's look at the basic cyber hygiene to help us with our cyber resilience. We need to rehearse for various scenarios, and Tokwe mentioned this. There are certain scenarios that, you know, are common to your environment, they are common to your industry. We talked about ransomware, we talked about insider risks. Now we're seeing insiders colluding with external parties, and it's convoluted because in some cases these guys are good guys, but when does a good guy turn rogue? So we need to understand and engage our people, have systems. Harrison mentioned heuristic systems, and I'll be talking about embracing innovation. We need to embrace innovation. We need to embrace innovation in this new cyber normal. So if you or your organization, you don't have, you know, resources to raise your own shield, you don't have resources to protect yourself, you can use a managed security service provider. But make sure that that MSSP incorporates AI-based defense tools and 24/7 coverage that can help you boost your cyber resilience or your cyber defenses. So we have, the Internet of Things now, and it's been reported that there are over 127 devices that are connected every second. But that's not just it. If we look at it, we're seeing the connectedness of organizations, the data that we use, we are connected. And that's what Bharat mentioned too. We have third parties, and your third parties have third parties. You need to check. Do you have a control in place that mandates that your third parties escalate to you if they have been breached? Do you have the right to audit in their contracts? All those things, we need to start to look at it. Now, the way I look at AI, I like this example of David and Goliath. So we have David as, someone who is like the defenders that we are. He's where he is. He has, a few tools. And we have Goliath. We have the cyber criminals. We have the new tactics. They have ammunitions right now in their arsenal. But with David, David can invoke a higher power, and that is AI. AI, those heuristic tools, they can help us to be more cyber resilient. And why do I say that? So we saw an SC lab evaluation that was done in I think it was done in 2015, so that there was an AI math model trained in 2015. And it was put against the modern cyber threats that we are seeing now in 2022. And the evaluation found that the AI, scattered, it dealt with those threats, even though it was something that was made in 2015. So the predictive power of AI is very powerful, and we can leverage that power. So let's start to look at acquiring these tools if we can. And if we can't, let's look for an MSSP provider that can help us with that. It will help us with cyber resilience. Now, let's be good at being resilient. So I talked about the new cyber normal. It's not just about bouncing back. There's another thing we need to start to look at. Ultimately, being resilient isn't good enough. Right now, some people will bounce back, like the example I gave with the hotel, the Marriott Hotel. They eventually found out, but that was 2 years later. So yes, they are bouncing back. What we need to do is we need to be good at being resilient. We need to be good at being resilient. So it's not just about getting up. We need to reduce the times that we fall, and if we must fall less often, and we must rise up, we must come up stronger. So we need to avoid, uncertainty is a good thing, but we need to start to embrace chaos. So I saw an example which I found very interesting, and it was Netflix. Netflix, we all know this streaming provider, Netflix has a tool, it's called Chaos Monkey. It was developed in 2011. And this tool is designed to test the resilience of its IT infrastructure by randomly, disabling computers in Netflix infrastructure in his network. And what it does this so that it can gauge how the remaining systems within the network can respond to the outage of a particular critical system. So they have embraced chaos. What was the outcome for Netflix? Netflix now boasts of, their systems being only down for about 30 seconds a week. That's because they are constantly embracing chaos. So let's try and embrace chaos. Let's also look at how we can diversify our digital workforce. I mean, that's a part that is very close to my heart, and I have to mention this. We're looking at how we can be resilient. We need to start to look at, a more diverse workforce. When we have people with different thoughts from different backgrounds. Okay, so I'll give an example. We have people that are very, very good within the cyberspace, but you see that some of them don't have, I would say maybe they didn't come out with a first or second class, but we don't give them a chance. That's a problem, because these guys have honed their skills over time and they are the best of the best now. So we need to start to look at how we can work with HR to give them different matrices for, getting the right talents to us. We have great and amazing female talents that are out there now that we can also bring on board. So we're looking at diverse skills, people that haven't studied cyber, but are good with psychology. I have worked with people that they are good with threat intelligence. They are good with, because this is a lawyer and this person knows how to work on contracts. We need to start to look at what we need to make a resilient organization and not just continue thinking the way we were thinking. I was talking to someone recently and talking about people who have left and how we are struggling with talents. There are different ways you can augment your CISO organization now. You have a pool, there are pools around. You can work with a managed security service provider too. Number 6, foster C-suite collaboration. And this is very important. I see that most times the CISO organization is not called to come conversation. The other set of CISO do not see the benefit that it's having to have that conversation. So I mentioned something recently where a CIO was, I see a CISO, a CIO was called into a board meeting to talk about his strategy and the funds that he needed for his work. After doing that, he was asked to leave. And then the next set of people that were coming in were people who were going to be talking about mergers and acquisitions for that organization. But he was not called to the table. He was relegated to the background. But when he saw it, he came back into the room. But there's a problem if we're not called into everything that happens in the organization. When it comes to offshoring, when it comes to anything, mergers and acquisitions, digitization efforts, we need to be there. So that means we need to have this narrative, have a brand for the cyber resilience program and the benefits that it has for each of the sections within the organization. Have relevant conversations with them. Sometimes we're talking to the wrong person. So for ransomware, which we know is an existential threat, we know that if it happens in the organization, the CFO will be very upset. We can talk about the possible outage scenarios that we're seeing across our industry. And we talk about the need to have a budget to work under a heightened state of cyber security. Where in this heightened state, this is the cost. We will need to do a tabletop exercise. We will need to have a retainer in place with an MSSP. We might need to have cyber insurance. You bring them to have that conversation. You start having that conversation. We're talking about cyber resilience and PwC, where we are talking about this now. We need to have a united cyber effort. The C-suite united cyber ready future. For us to have that, we need to talk to everyone. The CIO has a role to play. The CTO has a role to play. When it comes to contracting and just ensuring our third parties are right, we have the chief legal counsel. They have a place that is relevant to them. So it's not just speaking to them generically, but talking to them about the exact thing that they bring to the table, the exact skill that they have that will make the collective more resilient. So I will call these locking shields and changing our mindset. So a cyber resilience mindset is, shifting from just an organization, an ISO or a CISO organization, to an ecosystem, working with, key stakeholders for the greater good. It's about strategic business disciplines, having them, and especially when you're doing your tabletop exercise, you know that you are having different people in that room, from the CIO to the CTO, to a representative from the board. Sometimes you even go do it with the board and you bring the CCU to that conversation, depending on the scenario that you're simulating. So it's important that we think about fostering C-suite collaboration. And the other thing I would recommend is breaking down silos and increasing visibility. So, we need to have frequent assessments to gain visibility, and that's why we have to do our pen tests. We also have to leverage threat intelligence to understand your industry and the likely cyber criminals, the antagonists, understand the tactics that they would use. For breaking down silos, there are platforms, there are open platforms that foster integration between the CISO organization, the tools that the CTO has oversight on. And this just helps to unite the whole cyber resilience efforts. So the last thing I'll talk about here is leveraging. So I've talked about it in a way, but leveraging threat intelligence. That's very important. So there's need to leverage intelligence. There's need to work together, collaborate, be open and transparent. So we've seen in this part of the world, people are not exactly transparent with what's happening. Or we've seen some groups that are transparent because they have built trust over time. So it's good that we continue to leverage and expand that group and share intel. It's also good to talk about zero trust. I know we've talked about it already, but we need to really look at that. Multi-factor authentication, that is key. We need to continue to look at that. So I'll round up with a few case studies, and so just this. We'll talk about the resilience techniques that were used. I'll do this quickly. So we know HBO, this case, what happened was there were several episodes of the iconic Game of Thrones, and Orange is the New Black. I mean, for that organization, it was leaked in a ransomware attack. Now the impact, what we saw, that it affected millions of subscribers. So people don't want their what they are watching to be leaked. They want to watch it themselves. They don't want to hear it online. They lost a huge amount on advertising, and there was a lot of reputational damage done. Now, if we look at this, we're trying to learn lessons. I did this a little bit different. We have a case with ransomware. You know, it has been reported that 44% of Nigerian firms paid hackers ransom for hijacked data in 2021. So this is very relevant for us. Now, if you look at the lessons that we can learn from the analysis of 633 publicly disclosed destructive ransomware events, these are the points that I have here. So when you talk about 633, it means that there are common things, as we talked about learning, right? The part of resilience where it's not just the identify, detect, protect, respond, and recover. We have to add that learning components. What can we learn from these 633 publicly disclosed destructive ransomware events? I put it there. Businesses with suppliers, they need to focus on good cyber hygiene. We need to do that. It was a common theme that was found out in the MasterCard risk recon reports. These incidents have shown that you must pay attention to your suppliers. Check if they have good cyber hygiene. Revisit your cyber, your supplier inherent risk. Have you looked at it? When last have you looked at it? Ensure your suppliers have 24/7 ransomware protection, detection, and recovery. When we're called in, we see this. It happens through a supplier. We see that this whole complicated connected network makes us to be affected, even though our area is okay. If they hit our third parties who have access to our environment, it ultimately gets to us. So we need to take a look at this. The last one here is don't assume recent victims of ransomware materially improve their cybersecurity program. So those are some of the common trends that we have seen across 633 of these incidents. We have to be on the alert. You need to revisit the risk rating. So it's not that you've done it this year and you just leave it. You need to revisit it because things happen and you may not know about it. There has to be sanctions. And sometimes when we do these assessments, there are some third parties that were high, they were okay before, and they now relapse. We bring that up and conversations need to happen. Conversations need to happen. There are penalties for laxities in security because everybody is as strong as the weakest link. Okay. So for ransomware, what else can we learn? I'll just quickly touch on this. For leaders, we have people here who are not technical. We might have some leaders on this call. What do you do about these existential threats? So first and foremost, it's important that you understand what your critical systems are. What are your critical systems? What are your crown jewels? For example, we can have payroll as one of your systems that is critical. You need to understand the interdependencies for the payroll system in your organization. That's the first thing you need to do. Understand those dependencies. So that's why we say for cyber resilience is a collective effort. It's not something that you do in silos. With this kind of conversation, you have HR, you have the legal person involved, you have the CEO, you have the CFO. We're going to understand, we want to understand the interdependencies with our crown jewels. The second thing you need to do is make sure you are doing basic cyber hygiene. We've talked about this. It's important that you remember to exercise. We've talked about these things. Remember 3 things, your crown jewels, what are they? What are the interdependencies? The second thing, you need to block and tackle these things. Use your basic cyber hygiene, you have to do that. And you need to exercise, do tabletop exercises. What are the common things that could go wrong? And what I've seen successful with some CISOs, instead of going to say we have 10 possible things, 10 risks that we're fighting against, they work with 5, right? The plausible ones, the ones that are close to home, work with 5, deal with it, do everything they need to do. Then you pick up, if there are updates, you now expand that reach. The other thing I would say is you need to have a strategy in place. You need to have a strategy in place. So this is another question I have for you, just to be sure that everyone is following me. Is your organization prepared for a cyber attack? I know we flogged this and talked about this, but just it'd be good to just put that in the chat box. Is your organization prepared for a cyber attack? I believe that if I ask the next question, how can you plan for the unexpected? You will have a couple of things that you will write down there because of all the conversations that have happened today. So yes, someone said yes. So your organization is prepared for a cyber attack. Fantastic. Can I get more comments? Any more? Is it just one person that is prepared for a ransomware attack? Okay. So yes, Titilayo, thanks for that. Titilayo is prepared. Fantastic. So we're doing a good job. Always remember to go back and check and keep checking. Okay, I'm going to end with this. There is a story about a retailer. It's a retailer story that I'm about to tell you. And this retailer, so this is a real life, all these cases are real life. So the cyber criminals compromised 40 million credit and debit card accounts during the attack. And the attack continued till January 2014. So from 2013 to 2014. Personal identifiable information was taken. So names of the customers, phone numbers, email, mailing addresses, all that was stolen. And that for 70 million customers. So what happened? How did this attack happen? The cyber criminals used a specific form of malware that was dedicated to grabbing sensitive data out of hardened POS terminals. They exploited a third-party vendor's weak security that allowed them to compromise retailers' network, to compromise the retailer A network. Now, the retailer made some mistakes, yeah? They gave access to the third-party vendor with weak security. They allowed the attackers to obtain credentials, which in turn provided them a foothold in the network. That's how the attack happened. There are other things, there were other issues that they had, but this is it. The impact, 46% decline in profit for that organization, $61 million in total breach-related expenses. In fact, there are a whole lot, because this is a real-life scenario, there are a whole lot of losses that they had because of this. And what was the mistake that they made? Let's look at the attack vectors. Excessive privileges. We're giving some people excessive privileges. a third party vendor has that, you need to be sure of what's the security arrangement that they have in place. Look at the cyber security, the cyber resilience techniques that can be applied to deal with this kind of attack vector. Analytic monitoring, gather and analyze data on an ongoing basis. As I said, we need to always go back and check. Another resilience technique that can be applied is the privilege restriction. Apply least privilege to restrict privileges given to third parties. It's very serious. As I said, from 633 incidents that are publicly out there, this is a big issue. So we need to watch it and monitor it well. Because of time, since I'm going to share this later, so I would share just one more attack vector: lack of coordinated response. Now, what happened in some cases, the cybersecurity responsibilities were split across several executive roles. A lack of clear and comprehensive policies was seen in this particular organization. Now, what are the resilience techniques that we can have? We need to have an adaptive response. So that's why we're saying when you do your tabletop exercise, you go back to your plans and update them. We've had cases where during the tabletop exercise, you have feedback from someone that this person that we have the name here, or they say we should call him if there's any issue. He's not in the firm again. You go and update it. Adaptive response. Oh, we had an issue with this third party who was our MSSP. They were breached, and we need to move on to another person. We go change it. We go and change that arrangement. So that's adaptive response. There are vulnerable systems within the organization. What do we do about it? So all that we need to consider all of that. I would end with this, our key takeaways, just to rejig our memory a bit. We need to be good at being cyber resilient. It's not just about being resilient and bouncing back. No, we need to be good. And how can we be good? Remember the formula. We still do our NIST: identify, detect, protect, respond, recover, right? We have the business continuity component there, but we need to add something. We need to start to learn from our mistakes, learn from the publicly available resources that are out there. We need to learn. The second thing is cyber resilience strategy can be done using best practices. We have the NIST cybersecurity framework. I talked about mapping into the cyber kill chain, just so that we can fortify that whole, make it a more robust process. Give up on trying to overly prevent cyber attacks. And that's it. It's the reality we are facing now. Assume that they're already in. That's how we embrace chaos. We embrace chaos and we become better. So this brings me to a story that I heard a couple of months back. It was about a particular guy. He was young and his father would throw him into the water. Throw him into the water to just, get himself. He was trying to teach him how to swim. And this boy was very upset with his father. You know why? Because he just felt this guy always, until one day there was a mishap. People were going on the boats. There was a boat mishap, and everybody drowned except this man. This guy that his father had been throwing into the water, and nothing happened to him. He will come out. He was never in an accident. He was just wondering why was his father always doing this to him. But a day came when that practice came in handy. He was the only one that survived that incident. He was the only one that survived. If he had not practiced, he would have gone down like the rest. So it's very important that we prepare for tomorrow by building confidence in our digital future, by exercising our muscle memory, by doing our tabletop exercises, because we do not know, there might be something extremely catastrophic that will happen. It might take years, but we need to keep on doing it. Cyber resilience is not a siloed effort, it's a combined effort. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks so much. That was exceptionally brilliant. And there are so much to consume. And I believe that when you send in the materials, they will be able to add that to what we've learned. I must confess to you, personally, I've learned a lot, a great lot from this. I've heard about cyber resilience before, but not as detailed as this. And with your captivating stories, that really makes sense to me. Thank you so much. We are so happy to have you.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I believe that we must have learned one or two things. For me, I've learned a lot. Now we'll be moving on to our next section, and this time around is going to be the second panel section that will be talking on dealing with insider threats. We've heard about insider threat right from the onset of this section down to the last one. So we'll be having CISOs who will be discussing more light on how can we deal with this these big giant insider threats. So Timmy will be bringing his panelists on board and be having this discussion. Timmy, the floor is yours now.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you, Frank, and thank you, Nkiru, for that wonderful presentation. It was very quite insightful, and with all the simplistic methods of being residential. The last slide really was very simple, just in simple words. So thank you for that parting and closing remark from you. All right, so we'll be moving to this last event for this particular session. This is the last session for the day. And with me on this particular panel, which will be dissecting how do we deal and manage insider threats. Insider threat is currently seen as a global issue, and with me on the call, we'll be having experts, people who in their current job role, time past, have dealt with issues like this, and we will be seeing how they dealt with it and how we can further be proactive to prevent such or reduce if we cannot totally prevent. All right, so I'll be welcoming our panelists. We only have about 30 or tops 35 minutes to wrap this session up. So I will just want to appeal to our panelists to keep it very nimble and straight to the point for all of us so that we can conclude on time. So with me on the panel, the first person I would like to call on is Mr. Zechariah Akinpelu. So Zechariah is the current CISO of Unity Bank. Of course, his experience spans different areas around engineering, SOC, and the likes. Got to know him back from First Bank, and he also has a wide range of experience. So Zachariah, welcome on board. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you so much. Okay, so I need to give him powers to unmute. Frank, can you help me give all our...
No, I've done that. I think you can speak.
All right. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate this opportunity. Thank you very much, the organizer and my co-panelist.
All right. Thank you so much. So I also have on this particular panel, we have the CISO of the InterSwitch group. We all know InterSwitch, who is like the hub for transactions. All right, I have the person of Mr. Patrick Odua. Patrick, you're welcome. Could you say hello to everyone?
Thank you, Timmy. Hello, everybody. Great to be here.
All right. Thank you so much. We don't mind also seeing your face. I hope your video is on as well.
Yes.
All right. All right. Yes. Patrick and myself, we've known each other way back. So we are happy to have him on call. And finally, we also have the CISO of Greenwich Merchant Bank. All right. He's the currency so, and he he also been from custodian, diamond, and he has even carried the cap of an auditor previously before switching also to become a full front end attacking machine. All right. So in the name of Mr. Ifemi Fekoya, Mr. Fekoya, or Ifemi, as some of us will know him, could you say hello to everyone of us?
Thank you very much, Timmy. Thank you for having me, and it's a pleasure being here with everyone. It's been very interesting listening to speakers before me, so I've also learned a lot, and I'll say thank you for this opportunity.
All right, thank you so much. So our chairperson is also supposed to be on this panel, in person of Wumi Faiga. Wumi, are you on the call? Okay, I can't see her. All right. So we'll just write on and we'll try to be very, very, very brief. So thank you everyone once again. All right. So my first question, just to know more about what exactly are we talking about when we say insider threats, right? What are insider threats exactly? If any, I don't know whether you like to throw some more insights quickly into what exactly are we talking about when we say insider threats?
All right, Timmy, thank you for that. Let me see how I can explain this in a very simple way. Insider threats, it's the potential for an insider, somebody who works within an organization, okay, to use their legitimate or authorized access or their understanding of their organization to wreak havoc against the same organization. That's insider threat.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. Someone who is internal and using his privilege to wreak havoc within the organization. All right, thank you so much. All right, so we would like to take the first question. All right, so my second question. So I would like to also go to the CISO of InterSwitch. All right, so if we have people who are internal, as people who we should also be watching, that means we need to watch our back. So what are the likely danger signs to spot for anyone that may want to assume an insider threat actor? What are the likely signs we should be looking out for us to suspect, could this person be an insider threat to us?
Okay, so well, first I'll say, so while I've been listening to the conversations, especially when I was listening to Tokwe, and then I listened to Harrison, there was something that came to my mind, So the insider threats, it's not just necessarily staff who are inside your organization, yeah. It's also your partners who have access to your internal assets, access that you have given to them, right? So without proper monitoring, they also form a threat to you from the inside, right? And so for me, a few telltales that will show you that something is going on is when you notice on your network some form of network degradation, where you find maybe the network speeds begin to drop at certain times, or there is a peak in your network usage at off hours. It gives you a sign where maybe some form of exfiltration is happening, maybe documents are moving not east to west, or worse still, south to north. Then you should be worried. It will simply mean that there's a lot of tasks that have been pushed on your network, and so you need to get yourself concerned, right? Secondly, it's also when a telltale will also be where you have a situation where proper segregation of duties have not been done. So you find so many overlaps, and then you now have staff who have access privileges that they don't necessarily need, right? But because they need work to be done, they request for this access rights, and then when those requests are being made, instead of giving those accesses to those who need it immediately, you find that instead of giving it to one, you have two people requesting for it. You should be worried, right? Then another great indicator will be where you find your an environment where you have legacy solutions. We have legacy applications where the organization has moved away from these versions of this solution or moved away from the solution entirely. Well, you find that these same legacy solutions are still in play, right? And so since they are still in play, and then anytime you as maybe as the head of information security or cyber security or the head of technology or anybody, when you ask a question and you say, why is this server still running? And then they give you telltale stories. Oh, this server needs to be on to fulfill these business requirements, and you can't find it on your radar. You should be worried. It could just be a honeypot for some actions that are going on in your organization. So some of these things are quick red flags for you, right? And they should tell you immediately that, hey, these are possible indicators. Of course, they are possible because in cybersecurity and risk, you use your word possible, right? So you should always check. So when you see some of these things, of course, we cannot exhaust all of them, but then again, some of these things are clear indicators that something is going on or something might happen because there's a staging part of some of these activities. So yeah, those are the first indicators I would say.
All right, thank you so much, Patrick. All right, I'll move over to Zechariah. So looking at the current state of our own environment now, where we have so many people jackpying, so many people, you don't even know the intentions of the next person, right? You have a staff, you are all working together. The next thing you hear, I'm going, right? The next thing, you don't even know who and who is with you. For me, it looks as if everybody's just, everybody's in the pipeline. So with this level of attrition of staff, right, what will you say are the controls we can put in place to ensure that as much as possible, this, exfiltration and even the search to bring in more talent, does not pose an insider threat for us as an organization?
All right, so thank you, Timilai, for the question. So as we are all in this. So the rate at which people are actually living, especially the technology guys, the most especially the cybersecurity, we are all aware of the cybersecurity talent drain. It's not just a Nigeria problem, but just that I'm being more worried for this country, even though the so-called developed country, US, are having several cases of people moving. So, and how do you control? Because you don't know who you are working with. I've had several cases of, during the recruitment process, you ask people whether they are ready to join your team. They tell you that they are ready to join your team. And it will be so funny. Within a few weeks of joining the team, they will be telling you that one thing, something come up, blah, 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 blah. So are we so sure that as we are in a rush to get a replacement, we are not hiring the wrong people? Because as you are hiring them, people spend, I've been in a different case where that people just spend 1 month or 2 months. Some of them, before they won't resume, they will tell you that, okay, we are sorry, we can't resume again. And people can also resume to come and get some information about your organization, about what you do, about us. So I think, to me, I use the principle of zero trust architecture. Don't trust anybody. Don't trust any system. So if you have that kind of a mindset, I have the mindset that everybody around you are potential hackers. So if you have that kind of a mindset, you will be better. Your strategy would change, you know that you are in a war. Because if you're in a war, you don't sleep, you don't be too relaxed. Even when you are relaxing, you need to carry your armor, make sure that you wear all your weapons. So I approach cybersecurity in such level. I don't trust anybody. I don't trust. I've been in a situation whereby people that even you trust can also be even compromised by external factor. I've seen a case whereby in my organization we hire an intern in one of my previous organizations. And the intern wasn't studying an intern in a branch, working in a branch, for God's sake. Not the intern did not study anything related to cybersecurity or computer science, just like a normal, so working for people in the branch. So at the point in time, the branch normally complain that they normally, at the point in time, just to buttress what Patrick said, that if you observe abnormal network traffic, might be possible, there's a possibility that you're under attack, or possibility that some people are trying to do some funny things. So in that particular branch, within a particular hour of the day, they normally have challenges with the network. Immediately, a network support guys come into the branch, everything stabilized. It's like the network support guys, it's like his presence normally stabilize the network hypes. And nothing. So when that stuff happened, so the support guys got in touch with me. I asked the guy to try as much as possible, because on your IPS, you may not be able to see traffic at the branch level, because there we don't, most bank, we are not this sophisticated. Those are the early years, but I'm talking about 10 years ago. So we don't have so many tooling. So when I asked the guy to make sure that he goes through all the system, I will sure that there's no system doing some fun activities, to check all the processes. The guy checked, they have 4 systems in that branch. All the systems seems to be fine. There were no abnormal processes. So when the guy was about to leave, he just saw a network cable going to the back of a dispenser. The guy traced the network cable, and lo and behold, there was the network cable was inside an envelope, brown envelope. The guy opened up the envelope. There was a laptop. So inside this laptop, there are a lot of tools. So the laptop was running, there was a team viewer. So it's obvious somebody logged on remotely to the laptop and begin to scan. There are a lot of tools, dangerous tools, angry scan, and map, even Kali Linux. Then there was nothing like Kali Linux. It was backtracked before Kali Linux, before backtrack metamorphosized to Kali Linux. Backtrack was inside this laptop. What could an intern be doing with that kind of a laptop? So when further investigation was done, it was realized that some external people gave this guy just a sum of 10,000 naira. You know what? Just take this laptop to your bank, plug it, and that's all, and all of that. So insider threats may not only be the people that you think that they are very techy. So it could be anybody. So that's why I said that I do principle of zero trust architecture. Don't trust anybody. Network access, people that grant network access, verify everybody at every point in time. For the fact that somebody have been having consistent access, the person have not been compromised. Verify the access one every now and then. You know what I'm saying? At that point in time, somebody's system have been hijacked, and the person, somebody access by hijacked. I also been in a situation where I won't mention the name of the organization. So when I've been in a few different organizations before I joined so not a bank this time around. So I've been in a situation whereby a particular system, I just realized that the system administrator, they were having challenges, they were having sleepless nights. They refused to tell me what was the issue. They refused to tell me, and therefore more than 4 days until when, and I tried to, they just locked up until when the CIO told me that, okay, I need to assist those guys. So what really happened was that for the past 4 days, most of their servers are maxing out. CPU resources, maxing out of memory resources, and blah, 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 blah. So when they handed over the system to me, I realized that system has been hijacked. Whenever they spin up a new system, because the bad actors are already, their credentials have been hijacked. So whenever they spin up a new system, in less than a few minutes, that system will be hijacked. So I now realized that was a crypto miner running on the system, running of those systems. Whenever they spin up a new system, the crypto miner activities will come up. And so trust nobody. Somebody might be, don't trust any system, not just only any user. A particular system, for this particular case, the malicious activities were not being carried out by people that has privileged access. Yes, their access was compromised. Trust no system, trust no processes. Verify the activities of every processes. Trust no application. An application might seem legitimate today. The applications, a malware, maybe like a kind of zero trust Trojan might have been embedded into the stuff, and also put on always be vigilant. So I've told you that as cybersecurity guys, make sure that you are being weaponized. Make sure that you carry out a red teaming operation every now and then. So what I normally do, apart from having a team of penetration tester working with me, I also make sure that I have a red team operators. I have a threat hunter, people that continuously what they will be able to, they'll be able me to look out for indication of compromise. Is there any processes that have been compromised? Is there any system that have been compromised? Is there any application that has been compromised? Is there anybody that has been, users can also be compromised, somebody might, and also make sure that you have a good visibility, because cybersecurity, if you don't have a visibility of what is going on,
Okay, all right. It seems as if we can't. The network is breaking. So, all right. So, point well taken. Hello. Okay. Please. Okay. Patrick, can you hear me? Fem, can you hear me?
Yes, Timmy, I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, so I think Zachariah's network is really fluctuating. All right. I'll come back to you, Zachariah. There's one more question. You said something about trust. All right. Trust no one, but you have to still trust somebody. You have to trust people you work with one way or the other. But I'll come back to you on the case of how do we better, work with people. How do you differentiate between a malicious insider as well as your workers just being negligent or not following the rules. All right. So Patrick, if you are there, maybe I'll just throw my next question to you. All right, Patrick, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
All right. So looking at these malicious insiders, like the examples of Zachariah gave, what could actually be the motivation for these people, and how do we address them? Is it by paying them the more, all right, hiking our salaries, or is there something else we need to give these people to satisfy people, right?
Just give me more money. All right.
Is it more money that will be the solution?
Yeah, but yes, okay, so when I was listening to Zach, I kind of saw a few takeaways, right? Especially trusting nobody, right? But what are the motivations, right? So I think the best way I think we can group them into two. They are either intentional motivations, right? And then there might be unintentional motivations. And by the time I explain, I'm sure you'll get. And I'm just using it based on the experience I have had with dealing with some of these scenarios. Yeah. So the ones we know, the ones that are clear, are intentional motivations. It could be political, like we saw with the .NET virus that came out a couple of years ago. And so when you have is an insider, either a staff, a contractor, or a partner, you have political interests that want to push, other motivations. Of course, what applies to us here in our client would be a lot of financial motivations, yeah. Especially with the example Zach shared, right? I mean, 10,000 naira. That must have happened like 10 years ago, because 10,000 naira 10 years ago was a lot of money, right? So, then of course, emotional, right? Just like what Nkiruka was talking about. There's an example Nkiruka gave about a lady who was touchy, emotionally on the edge, and then when she decided to resign or end the appointment at organization, she deleted stuff. Yeah. So these are the obvious intentional motivations that drive some of these insider threats that we see. But then what are the soft ones? The soft ones are the unintentional ones. Yeah, like knowledge gap, right? I want a new job, so I go online and prep up my CV and pass the interviews I'm having at a new organization and pretend like I know the job when I don't know the job. And then when I now get into the organization, my actions or inactions inevitably, or the correct word, inadvertently puts the organization at risk because I don't know what I'm supposed to do. So if I'm supposed to toggle a switch on, I toggle it off. And then the business suffers, right? So those are the soft ones, things like misuse of technology, for instance, right? I'm trying to scale over a hurdle in my code development, in my application development life cycle. I'm trying to follow the agile framework and deliver on my targets quickly and efficiently. And then I get to a hurdle and I need to scale it. So instead of me to follow the process and obey the policy, which would be only download or only use licensed software, I'm trying to solve a problem. I go to Google, and then a particular software is recommended to me. And then when I search it, the very first option I see, I click, I download, I install. Right? So when I click, I download, I install, it's a open source, no license. And so no patching, whatever. I introduce more vulnerabilities to my environment. And then you find that while the intentions are good, but it was unintentional, right? And then that causes some form of motivation in a way. And then also ease of use, right? So I know there are a lot of CISOs here and a lot of heads of departments here, directors, a lot of people here. You would all know that the bane, or more like the crust of most of the friction between cybersecurity and technology, is your CIO or CTO wants everything availability to be 100%. And so it wants usage to be easy. And so because of that, we need to tone down a lot of security policies and configurations and the likes. And then you find that you become susceptible. Yeah. So those are the soft ones, right? And that's why I classify them more around unintentional. And those are things that a lot of people don't really pay attention to, but they really cause a lot of problems, especially with misconfiguration. Now, how do we resolve this? It's obvious. User education, right? User education. People need to understand the implications of some of these things, meaning when you see something, you report it. Whistleblowing, right? How else can we mitigate it? HR and the IT function and the cybersecurity function, that's in organizations where the user access team lies within cybersecurity, there should be a proper synergy, right? So at the point of onboarding a new staff, the right access mapping should be done for that staff, and that staff should have only the access it requires to do its job. And then at the point of exit, that staff should be deactivated on every single platform that staff has had access to while in service, right? So that synergy needs to happen, because whenever there's a break in that chain, you'll find that if once you run a scan within your network, you find accesses that nobody is using. They are inactive. And then those are ripe fruits for any hacker that is what it sought, right? Another good another to do that's good and advisable is to have a workable, practical incident response plan, because we all know that it's there's no silver bullets in cybersecurity, right? So at some point in time, it's gonna happen, and then you now begin to pray that the S in your CISO actually stands for security and not scapegoat, right? So you need to have a plan, and in that plan, everybody needs to know their role during an incident, because it saves a lot of headache. And then your playbooks should be working playbooks, practical playbooks. You can't be in a fintech and have a playbook that is practicable in a bank. You can't be in an e-commerce company and be implementing playbooks in your incident response plan that are practicable. In manufacturing, you need to be able to look at your environment, develop practical playbooks that will feed into your incident response plan that will be able to help you respond when some of these issues occur. And then finally, I would just say access reviews. Review as much as you can. Create a synergy with the guys, with the audit guys, with control guys, get them to review those access lists, user accesses as frequently as possible, because most of these insiders that I have seen, they always seem to have access to accounts that have certain privileges that ordinarily they shouldn't be having. So once those reviews are done and are comprehensive and are more regular, I'm sure we'll be able to. We might not eliminate 100%, but we'll try. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Patrick. All right, so we'll go to Ifemi before we take the final one from the Pariah. So Ifemi, of course, we know you also have some level of audit experience, all right, and you've been at the background, third level of defense. So we just like to ask, so how do we actually respond to cases of insider threat when we discover that this person, right, has been compromised? How do we actually respond, right?
Okay, thank you, Timmy. I would say that for every human, the first instinct that will come to you is to terminate their access. Stop whatever it is that they are doing, cut your losses. But unfortunately, from experience, I would not recommend that, simply because if you do that, then the insider, the threat actor now knows that you're on their trail. Currently, with the way we work right now, we work remotely, we work on-prem. So even if that person is remotely, imagine you terminating the access that they were using, or blocking the IP, or doing something that will also give you away. That person will just up and leave and never come back to your organization. So in your evidence gathering, that you will need later to do your forensic, you would lose some good information if you cannot interrogate the suspect that you think you have. So I would rather say that you have identified them already as a threat, okay? Do not terminate or do not disconnect their connection, but immediately try your best to alert your security team and see if they can monitor and observe what that person is doing at the moment. And more importantly, with the aim of apprehending this person, if possible. Try to lure them into a place where you can apprehend them. It would help you further down the line in your forensic. But your question reminds me of something that happened to me myself over 10 years ago. While in my early days, I was trying to do a pen test on our internet banking solution then. That was one of the very first ones in the country. And yes, in that state, I quickly just turn up some tools and gain access to some network ports and started scanning the server. The CTO then and the CIO then, they were alarmed of based on the number of payload that was delivered to their server. And they narrowed down the IP that this traffic was coming from to be an IP on the second floor of a particular building that the bank was occupied there. So they started tracing all the IPs on that floor, going to each desk, looking at what they were doing, moving from one desk to another desk. But while they were doing that, they had already called the security team. The chief security officer then was with them and two other guys, so that in case they find the person, that they can apprehend the person. By the time they got to the floor where I was the only one in that room. They doubted if it was going to be me because I was a trusted, just like Zachariah said, trust no one. But then I was a trusted auditor and they felt it couldn't be me. But while they were turning their back and going, one of them just came back and said, let me see what is going on. But the moment I saw the three of them and two security officers, I knew something was up. My mind told me, okay, what scanning that was running has obviously caused an issue because they had to shut down, at some point, they had to shut down the server, the internet banking server then for that purpose. So when they saw it was me, their initial action was to arrest the person, drag the person down to maybe the police station, get more intel and all that. But if they had disconnected my IP or disconnected my connection to that attack, then, well, it seems like an attack then. I probably would have upped and leave, maybe thought it was over, take a break, go for lunch or do something, and they won't find the person. So that's why I try to explain the fact that disconnecting is not the first thing, I think, which is your instinct, but that's not the first thing you should do. You may monitor so that no further havoc will be done, but try to narrow down and apprehend the person. Hopefully the person will be on site. And if the person is remote where you cannot easily apprehend, try to lure them. And if that's not possible, then please terminate. If you can't see a way to apprehend this person, then you can go ahead and cut your losses, terminate the connection, and then start with your evidence gathering. So that's what I would recommend we do when we're in that position.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay, so our time is practically up. So we'll just go straight to the questions. We have some few questions that have come in. I would like Zachariah to take one of the first ones. Okay, this is from our past president. There are quite a lot of collusions going on, both inside and other parties. Meaning we have internal people, external people, just like one of the examples that was made, right? You have an internal staff colluding with some external parties. What are the practical security measures we can put in place? So, Zachariah? Okay, wow. Guess his network has frozen. All right. Ifemi, do you mind taking that question?
Okay, right. Thank you. I would just do that. Some practical steps we could take. I noticed earlier when you asked that question about what can we do, and Zachariah was speaking to trust no one. Okay, but how do we do that? I'm sure in some of the onboarding process we have in any organization, there should be a background check. Okay, in bringing in somebody into the organization, especially with this time where there is a very high iteration rate, we should always ensure we do background check. Yes, I know we do that, maybe with the help of some third-party vendor, but we should also do their social media footprints too and see the kind of activities that they have been into. We should not just think, because some people, they did not plan to be an insider threat actor now. They stumbled into it. So their behavioral pattern 5 years back on Twitter, on social media, on Facebook or anywhere can give them away. If you see the kind of statements or tweets that they make, like they support such terrorist action, activists, or they support such things, or they're in such forums, you could find that out with their email address, their handles and all that. That is a very good kind of background check I would recommend. I kind of do some of those, in my organization where I work, but it's not something that I find very common here. I'm sure online you will find some cases whereby some people have been rejected offers based on the kind of statements that they have made in the past, and it has come back to haunt them. So I would recommend that we do good background checks, and also add to it the credit bureau check, how creditworthy you are. Some people have borrowed monies from 5-6 microfinance banks and do not pay back. Yet they find their way into the FI space to get an IT job. Sincerely, that's integrity. That speaks a lot. Yes, you may not be a threat actor at that point, but you are a potential one, because they say money is the root of all evils, okay? However, that means that person has a pressing need for money, and that person lacks the moral value to pay back when there is no sanctions or to deal with. So that person will easily be tempted if somebody offers them some lofty amount of money to say, put this in your organization for me, or open the port like we've all said today, or close the port for me so that they can, or turn off that service. That person will probably take it because they are always having that pressing need for money. So doing those checks, the background check, the credit search on these people will give you a score, and have a score so that all of this will amount to, it's like a visa process. If you fill some requirements, it's a score to how you will be able to, at the end, say whether they are okay or not. Another thing is the awareness policy. Create an awareness policy where you would let your people know about this kind of threats and how people are out there to convince them that they can just easily do this and make some gains. I liked when Patrick was talking about the gains, the motives, financial and political, but there was also one I would love to introduce. I've seen a case where somebody did this just to pay a ransom. Somebody's brother or sister was being apprehended by some guys, and they said, you have to go to your office and turn off a service. There was no financial gain for the person. It was just to save someone's life. So he was paying a ransom. That's the third one I would like to introduce. So, but that awareness, if you do constant awareness to your people, you let them know that they are not alone, even if they find themselves in such situations, they should come out and speak to the authorities in the bank. But let's see how we can help, because they're not alone. It's not about, you won't pay that ransom and put your bank in trouble or your organization in trouble and think you will get away with it at the end, because you are not making any gain, but you're acting under duress. So lastly, I would say that we could still add more solutions like our PAM solution, that will buttress the zero trust, that Zachariah talked about. Adding to the, like we may have a DAM solution that would see the kind of scripts that people are running on some of our databases. Let's know the kind of access that people have and what they are doing with it per time. Even our third-party vendors too, that have VPN access to our environment. With a good PAM solution, you can deny certain access to them, even though they have, a VPN connection to your infrastructure. Lastly, I would say, continue to update your plan. Don't keep it static. Based on the trends that we have, in the technology space, continue to evolve and perfect your plan. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Okay, so we are actually rounding up now. So within the next 30 seconds, I'll split the last question into two, and please, I want Patrick, okay, Zachariah has gone off again, to just quickly answer, just within some few seconds, right? How can our HR policies actually help us deal with insider threats? HR policies, can they actually help us deal with insider threats? 30 seconds, please.
Well, yes, the answer is yes, they can help. They might not be complete, but of course, the HR policies can help, especially the policy around background checks, just like Femi has said, it can help. Then, of course, we need to also look more closely, and I'm speaking from the HR part of it, which would be having a close look at the people we're recruiting, yeah, especially in this time of social media. There's a lot of we need to expand our reviews to include footprints from the internet. So I think yes, the answer should be yes.
All right, thank you so much. Unfortunately, we are not able to take any further question now, but we can continue the discussion on our WhatsApp group. So we have a WhatsApp group where we have all our experts that they are part of. So you can drop your further questions and then we'll be able to have them treat it and pass it back on to you. So I want to use this opportunity to thank the CISOs of Unity Bank. The person of Zechariah Akipelu, thank you very much. We also thank you, Patrick Odua, CISO of InterSwitch Group. And we also want to thank you, Ifemi, CISO of GMB, for doing a wonderful job. I would like to hand over back to President. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Wow,
Yeah,
thank you very much, Patrick. Thank you, Femi. Thank you, Zachariah. Wonderful session. Thank you very much for the insights and the knowledge that has been shared. I will ask everyone to just give us another 5 to 10 minutes. We'll be rounding up now. Please don't go yet. So we're going to be rounding up any moment from now. So thank you, everyone, for the time, for the insight provided, for the questions that were asked, and for the collaboration and exchange of information. We are so delighted. And also to say thank you to you all that have been part of this program from day one, specifically from the 1st of October and up till now. And all our special guests and speakers, everyone that have anchored one of the events or the other. We want to say thank you to every one of you. Frank, can you please put up the flyer I talked about so that we can mention names here and then move to the final session of the event. Can I ask that we all please put up our videos, our cameras, so that we can take our typical pictures. Frank, are you able to enlarge this? Okay, good. So I'm sure you can see the list of all our speakers. You can see their faces. Confidence, Stavely, thank you. Noel Comfort, James Parker, Samuel Modupe, Evangeline, Eze, past founding president Chinatu, Tokpala Demisi, keynote speaker Wumi, thank you for your support. Bharat Soni, thanks a lot. Raphael Adeyemi, Utsav, Liz, and Ken. Thank you to every one of you, and also all the anchors whose faces are not appearing here. And thank you to able volunteer. I keep mentioning his name. He's unavoidably absent. Ayodeji Jayola is an award-winning volunteer. Very supportive guy, very committed to the work, and he's bringing his A game and everything into planning of all this event. So thank you, everyone. We really appreciate everything you've done. I want to say to you that come 2023, we are going to be doing a lot more. If you know who we are, you know that we don't relent in our efforts. We always strive to be better. Whatever you've seen so far is just the tip of the iceberg compared to what is to come. So please, let's continue to collaborate. Let's continue to work together so that we can ensure that we defend and secure the cyberspace. Can we put up our cameras? Most of us are not putting up our cameras. Please, can you do so? Patrick, can you put it on again? If Yemi, able speakers, please put on your cameras. We really appreciate that. Thank you very much. Timileyin, can you put on your camera? I can see Shadrach. Chinati, please, can you put up your camera as well? Namdi, thank you. Can see you. Kingsley Egesi, if you can, please put up your camera. I can see Alade Somi, Arinze, thank you very much. I haven't seen you in a while. David Dayo, thank you. Oyedikachi, please, can you put up your cameras? Kingsley, Jacinta, please put up your cameras. Okay, Nkiru, thank you very much. That's a very good presentation. Really appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Please let's put on our cameras. Yeah, I can see Eze, thank you for the other day. Please let's do so. Please, if you have not filled the form for claiming of your CPs, please let's do so. Zachariah, thank you very much. Thank you. Please fill there's an electronic form that is being shared on the chat board. Please ensure to fill in the form, put up your information so that we can automatically add the CP that is accrued to all this event to you. Please, let's do so. So Timmy or Frank, please, can you take, I hope you're taking the group pictures. Please, I expect more of us to share, to put up our cameras. Please put up your videos. Cilio, can you do that? Kingsley, please, let's do that. Yeah, let's put that up. Wow. I'm sure we've had a good time, right? We've had a good time. Frank, Frank, have you taken the pictures?
Yes, that's done.
Okay. Thank you, Frank. Just before we go, can we put in the chat box, right? For everybody on the call, please. Okay, Harrison, are you able to put on your video? Please, if you can. Can you put in the chat box what you think one of your key takeaways from this event? Can you just put in the chat board? Everybody just type something in the chat box. One of your key takeaway from this event, what you have learned from day one. Oh, Joker, thank you. I can see you. While your camera and your video is still on, just type in the chat box. One of your key takeaways, what you've learned, what you really appreciate about ISC2 chapter. Can you just put it up? I'm expecting them to come in. Okay. Please note that the recordings will be shared with us. The presentation slides from Nkiru, she has promised to share that. We'll also distribute that to everyone through our WhatsApp digital platform. Please, can you type them in? I can't see anything yet. What are key takeaways? Thank you, Temidayo. Third-party risk should be taken seriously. Wow. Embrace chaos. Thank you. Can you just, let's keep bringing it in. I'm sure there's a lot we can bring in so that we're sure. Okay, trust but verify. Yeah, you're coming. Thank you very much. I'm expecting a lot more to come in. Protect your career, not your work. Wow, Jacinta, that's very, very powerful for you to have remembered that. I know that came from RSA. Guys, let's bring that in. Let's keep bringing them in. What have you learned? What are your key takeaways? Okay, regular checks for vulnerability within your space and always verify. Yes, verify. I like the part that trust but verify. Managing insider threats. Very critical, very crucial. We must be our brother's keeper. I've learned that as well, right? We must be our brother's keeper. We all have a common enemy. We are strong as our weakest link. Always prepare for ransomware attack. I like that. And that is geared towards our theme for this year. Stay cyber resilient. You must be prepared. Regular access reviews. Do not assume it's being taken care of. Thank you. Don't assume. Always make sure it's done. We may not always win, but let's not lose either. I like that. We may not always win, but let's not lose either. Let's understand that continually it's a battlefront and we must continue to fight. Let's not put on the cap that we have won and that is all. It's continuous and continuous. Keep the eye on the insider threat. Somebody said, I've learned the status of cybersecurity issue and maturity level in Africa. Looking forward to know and share more. Keep learning, keep focusing, keep pushing, keep discussing, keep collaborating, keep challenging yourself. I like that last part, keep challenging yourself. Make sure that every point in time, every record that you have set, try as much as possible to beat your own record. You are not competing with anyone, but you are your own and your best competition. Keep challenging yourself. We must maintain a good cyber hygiene at all times. Thank you very much. Thank you, every one of you. Thank you for your support. Someone said, running background check, online internet footprint, credit worthiness, etc. on intending employee is super important. I like that. If you look at it critically, even immigration officers, they do that. They do background check, even up to checking your social media footprints. So please, it's important that we learn from that and we also adapt as much as we can. Similarly, thank you. Who else? Samuel Modupe, our officers, thank you. Frank, you've been wonderful. Joke, you've been excellent. Chinaye, thank you very much. Every one of you that have been supporting this brand, that have been supporting ISC2 Nigerian chapter, we appreciate you all. And let's always know that together we can do more. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of the weekend. See you guys again very soon. Remember, in November, we'll continue with our monthly cybersecurity awareness program. So for the month of November, we'll share more details with you through all of our digital platforms. Remember that this program is live on YouTube, so you can check on YouTube so that you have access to the program right from the beginning to the end. We'll also share the recordings as a deem it free and necessary. Thank you once again. Have a wonderful rest of the weekend. Bye, everyone. Bye-bye. 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 Wow, wonderful. Bye. Bye, everyone. Bye.
Okay, thank you, everyone. It was a great pleasure having you guys around.